All right, good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon, everyone. What's going on? I hope everyone is having a great weekend. And I am currently setting up Usyk against Breidis. All right, so we all know the fight between AJ and Usyk is coming up September 25th. AJ will be defending 3 of his titles, or 4 actually, because the IBO as well. So he has the WBO, IBF, WBA titles, and he's going to be defending those titles against Usyk on the 25th. All right. And we all know the WBC strap is over there with Wilder and Fury. Those two are going to fight for a 3rd time. All right, but I'm basically doing a fight rewatch, which I normally do leading up to a big fight, a fight that I'm going to do a breakdown for probably this week. I'm probably going to throw the breakdown out there sometime this week. So I'm just going to go through some of the past fights between the two fights that I think are kind of meaningful to watch, to rewatch. I've pretty much seen all of these fights already. But I just want to look for key things as far as strengths and weaknesses between both fighters. Usyk only has had 2 heavyweight fights, one against Chaz Witherspoon and one against Derek Chisora, which makes things really, really hard in this situation because those are not 2 good fights to judge on. Not just based on the fact that Usyk didn't stop them or didn't look incredible against them, but because of the styles, you're not really getting much there. All right. So today I'm going to go over some fights. I'm going to start out with Usyk against Breidis. We're going to watch some of that. Give you my views. I think I want to watch some of Usyk against Bellew as well. Probably going to turn on Chaz Witherspoon fight, probably watch a couple rounds of that. And then we'll go over to Joshua. I mean, if we have time, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend on Usyk today, but I know I wanted to start with Usyk first. So we're going to go to Breidis fight because Breidis was the most difficult fight for him in his career. Shout out to everyone that's coming in. The Breidis fight was the most difficult fight, and it was definitely the best opponent that Usyk has faced up to this point. In a fight that he almost lost. All right. A lot of people felt that Breidis did enough to win. I think it was really, really tight. I thought it was really close, but I think Usyk did enough to pull off the decision. All right. But it was really, really tight between those two. And then we'll go to the Tony Bellew fight, which is, I think, stylistically is probably a better comparison. As far as comparing an opponent that can do some of the things that AJ does, and and then we'll go from there. All right. Shout out to everyone that's joining us. Okay. Make sure you definitely hit that like button for me. Lincoln Clay, what's up? KRL, what's up? D Hodges, what's going on? Manuel Palanca, what's up? Cad C, what's happening? All right. So yeah, we're gonna go through some of these fights and we're gonna talk, and we're gonna pretty much go through and see how we feel. And I'm gonna let you know how I feel and what to look out for between these 2 opponents. All right. Pretty much, I've never done it like this, but I pretty much want to give you guys an idea of how, like, I look at fights and how I break down them before the fight. All right. Adari Pennant, what message? Was it a message? Where did you send me a message? I'm not sure. Hey, William, what's up, man? I hope you're doing better, man. I know you told me you lost a lot down there. Again, good luck to you. I hope your family is doing okay. All right. I hope no one's hurt, and I hope you, go on through, take the right steps through the process of getting everything back from that storm. We're definitely praying for you over here. And, good luck to you, you and your family. All right. King Sonny, listen, what's up? Oh, the Bridget Way. Oh, yeah, I did see that. Do I think it's going anywhere so far? No. But it's a bad time to start the Bridgerweight division because boxing hasn't been that active, especially after last year. It's just not that active, and the WBC is the only one that acknowledges this division. I mean, they pretty much created it. So if the other sanctioning bodies don't acknowledge the division, no one's really going to care for it, All right. Anyway, let me turn on this fight between Usyk and Breidis. All right, we're going to start off with that. And I'm going to skip around, I'm not going to just watch the whole entire fight. But the reason why I wanted to tune into this fight here is because Breidis was by far the best fighter that Usyk has faced in his professional career so far, and his toughest fight up to this point, Going into this though, rewatching this here, outside of them both being orthodox, there's not many similarities there. I think these guys in this fight here, as far as I remember, this is a really, really high level fight. If you've never seen this fight, definitely check it out, because this is a very, very high level fight. The things that these guys are doing, the amount of feinting that's going on, the probing, the setups, it's a very high technical fight to me, and these guys are doing a lot of things that most fighters don't do in their fights. You're getting a little bit of it all here. You're getting great footwork. You gotta look at the positioning of their feet here. The way that they're changing levels, the feinting, everything that they're doing is a factor here. And this was a great fight. This is probably the best fight if one of the best fights in all of the tournaments. Definitely in this tournament, in this division, in both tournaments, I think this was the best fight. I think this is the most competitive fight out of both World Boxing Super Series tournaments at cruiserweights. Thank you for the hoodie. All right, peace out, William. Peace out, man. Again, get well. Get well out there. Lincoln, no, I don't want to live in New York for the rest of my life. I definitely don't. I haven't decided where I'm gonna go, but I've been in New York my entire life, and I don't want to live here for the rest. It's a good question. That's actually a thing that I've been talking about lately. But I can see myself moving in a few years. We'll see. Yeah, I'm not gonna play it. I'm not gonna show the fight because I don't want any copyright strikes or anything like that. I know a lot of people like to change up the speed and minimize the video, and they do all of these things. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna give my commentary and then talk about it as we watch it, or as I watch it. All right. Conor Ben, James, definitely check out the video I did on Conor Ben. I did one late last night, and I posted it. So if you haven't had the chance, I basically touched on everything about Conor Ben. As far as what I feel about him. I know a lot of people wasn't impressed with his performance, but I think that is more because of the opponent he was facing and the way that he was fighting. I think Conor Ben is legit. I think there's a lot of room of improvement with him, but he's only 24 years old, and I think he's moving in the right direction. And I think that Adrian Granados was a good opponent. It's just that no one expected him to move that much. All right. So look, I'm gonna be honest. Love AJ. All right. I love AJ. AJ is one of my favorite fighters. I like the fact that he slimmed down again. I thought that was expected because we knew going to the Andy Ruiz fight, he was going to work on conditioning. He's going to work on speed. He's going to work on endurance, and he's going to work on movement. He wants to be lighter. A lot of people have said because he's so heavy, he's slower. He gets tired in fights. A lot of people said these things about him going into the Klitschko fight, the Takam fight. There's other fights there that people felt that he was slow. And him coming in lighter made a lot of sense. All right. So I think he's taking the right, approach going into this fight. Another thing is I think people need to give credit to both of these fighters here. And I do believe Usyk is the most skilled that Joshua has faced so far. I mean, you can say Klitschko, but Klitschko was coming off of a layoff. He had lost to Fury. He was older. So at that time, even though Klitschko had the most experience, yes, all right, and he was definitely the most successful, I would say Usyk is probably the most skilled at the time that Joshua is facing him, okay? The only thing is he's not as proven as a heavyweight, but if we're talking skill set, just pure skill, I would say Usyk, I would say Klitschko, and then I would say Povetkin as the top 3 most skilled fighters that Joshua has faced. All right, Usyk, I would probably put in number 1 for now. You got to give these guys credit. Their preparation for fights are really intense. They live a clean lifestyle. These are fighters that's able to adjust mid-fight. They bring a different strategy in with every fight. But I would like to say that I think AJ, as much as I love him, I think the two of these guys, Breidis and Usyk, are probably more skilled than him. If AJ was a natural cruiserweight, I would think that Usyk and Breidis are better. If he was a natural cruiserweight, that's not the case. All right, but AJ, if it was around the same height, around the same size as these guys, and he was bringing everything that we've seen up to this point, as good as he is, I'm not too sure if AJ would be better than these two. I think size is a factor in this fight. It is. It's not everything, but it's a clear advantage that AJ has here, being that Usyk is the guy that's moving up in weight. Yeah, he did win the Olympics, and so did Usyk. These guys, AJ is a very good boxer, but at the same time, I just think that these two are a little bit more skilled than AJ. I think AJ has gotten better over the years, and he's at his prime right now. But if you ask me 3-4 years ago, before AJ even lost, this is when AJ, maybe right around the time that he won the Klitschko fight, or maybe a little bit before that, maybe even a little after, I would have told you that Usyk would probably beat AJ. That's my take on it. Now, as far as now, I'm leaning more AJ because of everything he's done and accomplished up to this point and how he developed. But he developed a lot, whereas Usyk has kind of been like this all this time. He was a much more experienced amateur. They both won gold medals, but Usyk was definitely the better amateur. He was definitely, when he came in as a pro, he started at fighting at a very, very high level immediately, and that's because he had more experience than AJ, AJ was still learning, but he learned quick and he became champion quickly. But Usyk came in fighting the best at the division right away, you know? So that's my take on that. I think these guys, I think they're smaller than AJ. I mean, they are smaller. It's not that I think they are, but I think they might be a little bit more skilled than AJ, just based on what they're doing here. I think when AJ, even though he's going to be coming in lighter like he did against Ruiz in a rematch, I think that AJ fighting Usyk is going to be a different level than way different level fighting Ruiz. Completely different level. He's not going to have as much free time to think in there. Ruiz was overweight, he's shorter. And he doesn't know how to close the distance the way that Usyk does. Usyk, the angles, the volume, might not have the power that Ruiz has as a heavyweight. But Usyk is far better than Andy Ruiz. He's far better. Joyce is much more flat-footed than AJ. He definitely is. He definitely is. He is flat-footed, but I'm not basing it strictly off Joyce. I'm talking about experience overall. I'm not just talking about Joyce. I'm not comparing. I didn't even bring up Joyce. Joyce, that's not a fight that I'm going to go back and watch. I understand that Joyce, Chaz Witherspoon, Derek Chisora is not bringing what Anthony Joshua brings. But I'm just stating, I believe that if this was a fight of two men of equal size, I would think that Usyk is more skilled than Anthony Joshua. How much more skilled is he? I don't think he's that much more skilled. And I do believe that size will play a factor. AJ is much more skilled than the heavyweights that Usyk has fought. All right. But the guys at cruiserweight that he's fought and beaten are very, very good. They're very good. And that's nothing to take anything away from AJ, because the heavyweights that he fought were very, very good. But it's a good fight. It's a good fight. I do think AJ is going to win, though. I do think he's going to. I think by the time I finally make a breakdown, I do believe that AJ is going to win the fight between the two, But we'll have to wait and see. I think Usyk, if Usyk were to win, would you be surprised? I wouldn't be that surprised if Usyk was to find a way to beat AJ, See, I think AJ, like watching Usyk and Breidis fight, these guys fought at a very high level out the gate. They came out the gate. Usyk sometimes takes a little while to get started, get things rolling. He takes a little bit of time. In this fight, he came out straight out the gate with pressure, both of them. And I don't think AJ would be as comfortable with exchanging at the level that these guys are in this fight. AJ is a guy that's going to want to stay out of the pocket and use the range. He'll pick his spots. He'll step in and out at times and throw combinations, but he wouldn't want to stay there. Like, these two are kind of like they're in range at all times, and they're getting their shots off, and they feel comfortable with slipping. Like, I don't think AJ is at that level. He can't move like the way these guys do. He can't. He doesn't move like the way these guys do. I'm not underrating his boxing at all. I think Usyk is better. That's a problem. When you say someone boxes better than another person, people it's all about underrating. It's not underrating. I'm capable of what AJ can do. Again, he beat Povetkin. He was able to outbox Povetkin, and he beat Klitschko. You know, two boxers that are amazing boxers. I just think Usyk boxes a little better. I think what Usyk can do is a little bit more impressive. It's just that, can he do that at heavyweight? That I'm not too sure of. But as a cruiserweight, and his run at cruiserweight compared to his run at AJ's run, and when I'm putting all of the fighters that they fought together, and not, I'm just judging on the eye test. I see more in Usyk than AJ as far as skills. All right, I see more. I think AJ developed more. I think Usyk came in as is, or as a pro. As a pro, he came in the game like this good. Whereas AJ developed. He was a Olympic gold medalist, but he's improved with every fight as a pro, as opposed to Usyk, who's much older and more experienced. You know? Two heavyweights actually fight in front of a sold out in 4 hours, 65K. What's going on? Strange. I don't know what you mean, Wizards. Yeah, I think Usyk's cruiserweight one was a run was underrated. You know, it is underrated. I think he had a great run. You know, now Chisora and Witherspoon are not AJ, all right, and the performances with Usyk weren't great, but you got to look at the styles, all right, and you got to look at other things outside of just who he fought. Usyk fought Witherspoon. Yes, he was able to get the stoppage. Usyk was coming off of a long layoff, and you got to understand, is Usyk fighting at the level of his opponent? There's a huge possibility that Usyk was fighting at the level of his opponent. All right. I don't think Usyk was going in there thinking like, okay, I want to stop this guy in a couple of rounds. Did he go in there with that mindset, or did he go in there and say, you know what, I'm going to get these rounds off because I haven't been in the ring in a while, and I want to fight. I'm fighting a heavyweight at the first time. You know? And then Chisora is just railroaded him. Whereas Usyk is forced to fight, you know, on his back foot, and he's forced to move. He's getting pounded out by Chisora because Chisora is using his size against him. So the Chisora fight was a rugged introduction to the heavyweight division. Like, welcome. I'm not going to try to outbox you. I'm going to bully you because I'm much bigger than you. And I'm going to pound you. I'm going to pound you down. I'm going to hit your arms. I'm going to hit your body. I'm going to hit anything that's around because I'm bigger than you and I can. You know? And that's exactly what I saw in that fight. What I saw in the Chisora fight is not what AJ is bringing. AJ doesn't fight like that. You know, Chisora was fighting like a bully. AJ doesn't really fight like that. You know? So no, was the performance impressive against Chisora? It wasn't that. And if you're comparing what other heavyweights have done and looked like against Chisora, but we gotta understand that Usyk is a smaller guy. Now he's fighting AJ. Well, that's gonna be a chess match. That's gonna be a chess match. The AJ fight against Usyk is gonna be a chess match. All right. One guy is bigger. So yes, he can impose his size and his power against the smaller guy. You know, the right hands that landed with Bellew, okay, or in this Breidis fight here. You know, Breidis was able to shoot some right hands and land in between Usyk's guard. How many of those right hands can Joshua take? Can Usyk take from Joshua? That I don't know, you know, and I think that's one of the things you got to look at when it comes to this fight. Now, I know Joshua slimmed down, against Andy Ruiz, and he looked good. Like his endurance was great, but he wasn't receiving pressure from Usyk. He was getting pressured by an overweight Andy Ruiz who doesn't know how to pressure on a level that Usyk does. Usyk is better at that. You know, Usyk is a better volume puncher. All right. He's a better counter puncher. He can fight on the outside better than Andy Ruiz. He can close the distance better than Andy Ruiz. And he's actually in shape. He actually cares. You know, he's a much better physical condition than Andy Ruiz was. So, yes, AJ looked great when he slimmed down. He looked great against that guy. But Andy Ruiz is not Alexander Usyk. He's not. You haven't seen anything from Usyk. Well, I don't think it would be more. I don't think it's about power with Usyk. I think it's more about volume. You know, he works for his knockouts. He works for it. I don't even think there's going to be a knockout, to be honest. I actually believe that this is going to go to a decision. But Usyk is not a guy that he's not a one-punch knockout power kind of puncher. He's not that guy. He doesn't have destructive power. His power is based on just pressure and volume. You know, he beats you down, you know, similar to like Lomachenko. Like he stops guys, but it's not just based on him just one punch KO kind of guy. It's more like he's going to stay on you and he's going to beat you down round after round after round after round until, you know, you're exhausted, and he's just going to be relentless. You know, we got to look at it, and obviously a lot of you guys' mind is made up, and that's fine. But what I'm doing this video for is to try to create the conversation on what are the strengths and weaknesses between the both of them, and bring up past fights and break these past fights down, and talk about what every fight actually means here, what it could mean in the fights moving forward. You know, we got to be open to everything. We have to be open to every single all options for this fight. We can't just look at it like Usyk didn't look good against these two heavyweights, so he's going to lose to AJ. I mean, that might be a fact, but we also got to look at who Usyk fought, when he fought them, how he fought them, you know, and look at AJ and compare AJ to those two heavyweights. You know, Chad's really wasn't really that good, but I would probably compare Chad's style and the pacing of that fight more to Joshua than the Chisora fight. Like Chisora fight, there's nothing really there that I can compare with Chisora to Anthony Joshua. There's not much there. There's not much there. You know? Usyk doesn't have Andy Ruiz power, though. The power was what got Joshua in trouble. And at that weight, Usyk looks very touchable. Yeah, but the power wasn't a factor when he couldn't get to him. Joshua put himself in position to get hit in the first fight, and that's why he got knocked out. This is why he got stopped. In the second fight, he couldn't find Anthony Joshua. What I'm trying to explain to you is that Usyk can find Anthony Joshua. He has a better chance of finding Anthony Joshua in his slimmer self. You know, Joshua is going to be a guy that's going to be on the outside and moving and trying to keep the distance. At least that's what I'm assuming. What I'm saying is it's not all about power. You know, it's not all about power. If Usyk can touch Joshua, if he can get inside of his space, all right, and put pressure on him because he does have quicker feet than Joshua. Even if Joshua slims down, Usyk does have quicker feet than Joshua. If he's able to close the distance and get to him, that can be a problem. It could be a problem. It might not be, but it could be a problem for Usyk. But Usyk has a lot more to worry about when he's closing in on Joshua, than he did against a Chaz Witherspoon, Chisora, he wasn't looking for Chisora. Chisora was coming for him. So he didn't have to find Chisora. He didn't have to walk Chisora down. Chisora was chasing him. But in a Witherspoon fight, or in the Bellew fight, Usyk was trying to close in on Bellew. He was trying to pressure Bellew. Not early, but later on in the fight. He was pressuring Bellew, and it wasn't that hard to get to Bellew. It probably will be harder to get to Joshua than Bellew or Witherspoon or some of these other fighters. It's going to be tougher. And yes, he has a lot more to worry about. He has to be, cautious of Joshua's power. So yes, power does come into play. But Usyk is a master at closing a range between him and his opponents. We won't know until we see the fight. You can't sleep on Usyk. You can't sleep on Usyk, And I think people are sleeping on him because of the two heavyweight fights. They're judging it strictly off those two heavyweight fights. I don't think he fought. I've seen Usyk fight way better people than Chaz Witherspoon. Witherspoon is probably one of the worst people on his resume, if not the worst. All right. But as far as the cruiserweights, just about everybody he's fought at cruiserweight was better than Chaz Witherspoon, right? But Usyk took his time. You watch a fight, it was a very slow-paced fight. And I think that's because he's fighting at the level of his opponents. He's getting around, and he wasn't in the ring for a while. The guys like Bellew, guys like Breidis, guys like Gassiev and all of the other fighters, say Marco Hook, all these other guys he fought at cruiserweight, he fought at a higher level than he fought Chaz Witherspoon. So we're going to base everything off the Chaz Witherspoon fight and just end it there. I don't think that's a smart thing to do. Are we going to base it off the performance against Chisora when Chisora was coming here like a madman and just bullying him, using his size against him? We can't base it on that because AJ doesn't fight that way. We got to keep it strictly. What is Usyk going to do against AJ? What is AJ going to do against Usyk? And that's what we got to break it down. We can't just break it down on other fights. We could watch these fights. These fights help us analyze what's going to happen, but we can't base it strictly off those performances. Usyk cannot make the mistake to follow Joshua around unnecessarily like Holyfield did against Bo and get KO'd. Yeah. AJ is going to do a good job. I think AJ's jab to Usyk's body is going to be big. I think that's going to be one of his key things that he's going to be able to land throughout the fight. Usyk normally keeps a high guard, especially when he's trying to close the distance. And AJ is good at shooting jabs to the body. You want to slow the quicker guy down, Another thing is Usyk got to be I think the uppercut is the shot that he needs to worry about as he's stepping in. He has great angles, in his counters. He's able to slip shots pretty good. But that's one of those shots that if AJ was to knock out Usyk, I think it will be from the uppercut. The same uppercut that caught Klitschko. I think if he, timed that uppercut perfectly and throw it right in between Usyk's guard, or maybe like in between an exchange, that'll be the money shot for AJ. I think that'll be the shot that hurts, drops or knocks out Usyk, Well, Usyk moving up, the one thing I will say about him moving up to heavyweight is that Usyk speed, his speed is not uh it's not as quick as what it was at cruiserweight. You know, gaining weight, being a bigger guy now, putting on the extra pounds, he's lost some speed. That's one thing that I've noticed in those 2 fights that he's had at heavyweight. I don't think he's as fast. Like me watching this Breidis fight here, I don't think he's as fast as he was against you know, in these heavyweight fights. That's one thing I did notice in him. If we see an old AJ who was straight up destroying people, I think Usyk won't last, and he's gonna get destroyed. Don't you think? I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I think AJ is gonna win though. You know, but AJ is. I think he's taking the approach is he's not trying to really be a bully here. I think AJ is taking an approach where he's gonna try to. I think this is gonna be a chess match. You know. I think this is going to be a chess match here. I don't think he's trying to really impose his size on Usyk. If that was the case, he wouldn't be losing all this weight. You know, I think he would be the guy he was against Pulev, you know. Who other fights, you know, Carlos Takam, where he was really bulky. I think, you know, against Joseph Parker, he was big. Joseph Parker had a very a noticeable hand speed advantage in that fight. But Joseph Parker's always been one of the quicker heavyweights. The Joshua that we got in the Dillian White fight is a Joshua I kind of miss. You know, Joshua kind of just walked Dillian White down, you know. He was just, and I think that's because of all the talking and because he lost to him in the amateurs. I think because the fight was personal, Joshua took the approach where I'm going to knock you out in like 1 round, you know? I think he took that approach. And we haven't really seen that AJ in a while, you know? But it's also because he's developed as a boxer. You know, he's been forced to making adjustments in fights, you know, like the Povetkin fight where he was losing the first 2 or 3 rounds. You know, he was getting caught with some big shots by Povetkin. Took a different approach, dropped his guard, you know, kept his lead hand low, drew his jab from the hip, and that pretty much changed the fight, you know. He was throwing more he got low and he was starting to throw like an up jab and throwing right hands behind it and using that jab to like blind Povetkin, you know. And then he was also timing Povetkin better as he was coming in. And, you know, I think Joshua in that fight against Povetkin, he started to get the time down and was able to catch Povetkin as he stepped in. And that's part of the reason why I think he's going to be able to beat Usyk in this fight, because I think at some point as the fight goes on, I know Usyk gets better as the fight goes on too, but I think Anthony Joshua has shown that he can get better as the fight goes on in his fights as well, you know. So I think that's going to be something to look out for, right? Yeah, AJ does hate Dillian, you know. Film Boy says Joe Joyce beats AJ. I don't believe so. You know, I honestly believe that, you know, since AJ is the type of guy that goes up and down in weight depending on who he faces, I think against Joyce, he would take the same approach that he's taken in this fight and in the Ruiz 2 rematch, you know, where he's going to be focused on endurance. Joe Joyce is going to be easy to hit regardless, you know, but if you can't stop him, if you don't have the punching power to stop him, you're in for a long night because he's going to keep the pressure going. He's going to keep shooting that jab, and he has a lot of power too. I think Joe Joyce will lose to AJ though. even if it's by points or by stoppage, because I think not only does AJ has the power to hurt just about anybody at heavyweight, but he can definitely easily outbox Joyce, you know. And I think with the proper preparation, like we normally see from him, is if his endurance is good, I think he'll be able to beat Joyce even on points, you know, if it has to go there. But Joyce is a really, really tough pressure fighter. All right. And he does hit hard himself. Daniel Dubois had to learn that. Daniel Dubois was landing huge punches over and over. And he just couldn't really hurt Joe Joyce. He couldn't slow him down. And that's why he lost. But Daniel Dubois, you know, he doesn't really make adjustments. And he kept doing the same thing. And it wasn't working for him. I guess he figured, keep punching and this guy's going to go down eventually. And that's not what happened. You know, Dubois began to take punishment himself and he began to slow down, and Joyce was just more durable. AJ wouldn't take that approach with Joyce, in my opinion. You know, he just wouldn't. You know, he's slower. AJ is not going to be as easy to hit as Dubois was. You know, I think Dubois is just good at getting guys out of there quickly, you know, when he's fighting the guys at the level he's facing. But he really just throws a crazy 1-2 and then engages and likes to trade, but there's not much there as far as technical ability. There's not much there. Like, Joshua brings so much more than Daniel Dubois, you know, at least at this point in his career. Daniel Dubois, I haven't seen much development with him yet, you know. I don't really think Usyk ducked Joyce. You don't duck Joyce if you're fighting Anthony Joshua, you know. If you're the mandatory to face Joshua, you want to face Joshua. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, I don't think it's a duck when you're trying to get to, you know, the biggest fighter in the division, you know. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it every time for the donation. Do you think if Usyk outboxes AJ and win a close fight, will he get the nod? So I think if the fight is really close, and when I say close, I mean debatable. Like, if I see it 7-5 for Usyk, maybe an 8-4 with some swing rounds in there, I don't think he's gonna get the nod. All right, but I don't think that would be a robbery. You know, I think something that's a robbery would be something a little more clear. You know, we get in 2, 3, 4 swing rounds, which we do in a lot of fights, and it's debatable. Some people say Joshua win. Some people say Usyk win. If I believe that, you know, I'm just one person. You know, you're just one person. But I think if the fight is very close, I think AJ keeps it, as he should. You know, he's the champ. You know, which makes it even harder for Usyk going in this fight as well, because Usyk, listen, if this first half of this fight is very competitive, right? Or if AJ is up on the points, or the majority of us believe that he's up on points, right? It only matters what the judges feel about the fight. Only the scorecards, the official scorecards, is the only thing that really matters. But if AJ is up on points and Usyk starts to pressure AJ later half in the fight, he has to be careful even then, because if he feels like he's down and he starts to force the pressure, he could get caught with something, you know. But I think going into the fight, Usyk should know that he needs to do more. He should know that. He should be going in this fight thinking that he needs to do more. You know, if he wants to win, that is. I'm not talking about saying, you know, a lot of guys are comfortable Guys that have losses on their record, they're comfortable with going in there and taking a loss as long as they were able to say like, oh, I almost beat him, or I was competitive, or, you know, I got robbed. Some guys have done that. Plenty of guys have done it. You know, if Usyk and the guy and his character, I believe that he's going into trying to win this fight. He has to understand that he must do more. He must do more, especially if this goes to a decision. He's fighting a bigger man. Wasn't able to stop Chisora. Chisora has been stopped countless times in his career. Usyk wasn't able to do it. All right. He stopped Chaz Witherspoon, but Chaz Witherspoon is not. He's a journeyman at this point, you know, and he was out of shape in that fight, and it was a late call for that fight. So Witherspoon is not just, you know, he stopped him, but it doesn't really matter. So you have to think as Usyk, as you, the guy that you are, being that you're not the biggest puncher and that you are fighting as a heavyweight, you have to go in there thinking like, yo, you have to really make it clear, or you might have to even get a stoppage in order to win this fight. Who do you think is the most skilled fighter? Who do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Who do you guys think is the most skilled fighter that Joshua has faced? Matter of fact, tell me your top three in order. Who's the top three most skilled fighters on AJ's resume? And that's including Usyk, even though they haven't fought yet. What's up, Arlette? What's going on? He was selling cars. What do you guys think? Because I actually think Usyk is up there. I think Usyk is more skilled than Povetkin. And I think at the time that he fought Klitschko, I think Usyk was better than Klitschko at that time. At that time that AJ fought Klitschko. All right. That's just my opinion, though. You know, Vlad was coming off a layoff and a loss, and he was older. You know, if this was a younger Vlad, I would probably put Vlad number one. Vladimir Usyk, Povetkin, Vladimir, Usyk, Klitschko, Povetkin, Klitschko, Povetkin. Joseph Parker at that time. Joseph Parker. Who did he fight before Joseph Parker? Let me look real quick. Let me pull up his record. If you go down AJ's resume, all right, let's start with Dillian White. So you got Dillian White, who was the best at that time, right? Charles Martin, who I rate White higher than. Brazil, who I rate White higher than. Molina. So it was Klitschko, who I thought was most skilled at that time, by far, right? Most skilled. Then he fought Takam. Then he fought Parker. Now, the Parker, Klitschko, White thing is all debatable. I think Klitschko is the most skilled out of the three. But who was the best matchup against Joshua at that time? You can make an argument and say that Parker was the best matchup at that time. Parker was undefeated. He had a clear hand speed advantage. And he had a little slickness to him at that time, more so than Joshua. All right. So you can make an argument. He was younger than Klitschko at the time. I would still rate Klitschko over Parker at that time, but it's debatable, you know. And then he fought Povetkin, who I rate over Parker. Even though he was older, I still felt he was more dangerous than Parker, more dangerous than Dillian White. And probably even more, you know, between him and Klitschko, I would rate Klitschko as far as skills higher But Povetkin might have been a more dangerous fight for Joshua. All right. But Klitschko actually dropped Joshua. So I'm going to put Klitschko above Povetkin. All right. Then you had Andy Ruiz, who was an upset. You know, Andy, who I respect as a fighter going in, that was an upset. I'm not going to make it more than what it was. It was a big upset. It wasn't something we were all expected. I would say Andy might have been a top 5, but he wasn't a top 3 at the time, you know. Plus, he was a replacement opponent. And then he fought Kubrat Pulev, who I'll probably put Pulev like maybe at the tail end of the top 5 as far as going into the fight. You know, maybe number 5. All right. And then he have Usyk, who I rate over most of these guys here. All right. Takam was good, but Takam wasn't a top tier fighter for him. It was a good fight for him, but it was a fight that I think we all expected Joshua to win at that point. Dillian did hurt AJ. Dillian hurt AJ in the second round. Dillian did hurt him. You know, Joshua was getting off, had Dillian hurt, backing up, and I think Dillian caught him with like a hook or something that hit him right behind the ears, and AJ got wobbled a little bit. He survived the round, you know, and finished him off. Eventually finished him off, but Dillian did rock him. He did. I think AJ's the best heavyweight right now. Do I think Usyk can take 5 uppercuts in a row from AJ? No, absolutely not. But will he get hit with 5 uppercuts in a row by AJ? I don't think so. You know, I don't think so. AJ can't be the best. He's not fighting the best. Well, who's fighting the best consistently? Because consistently, he's been more consistent than the other 2 guys. If you take, Fury fought Wilder. I mean, Fury fought Klitschko. So you can make a strong argument for him. But outside of that, Wilder hasn't beaten any top heavyweight yet. You know, he doesn't have an actual win over them. Fury has one win over Klitschko, and he has a win over Wilder. So I think it's between the 2 of those 2. I think Wilder has yet to secure a major win. You know, his best win leading up to his best win period is still Ortiz, who's yet to fight anyone outside of Wilder. I think Fury could make the case, but Fury doesn't fight consistent. He doesn't fight good opponents consistently. You know, outside of Klitschko and Wilder, he hasn't really fought anyone that good. Pulev is not a top heavyweight right now, but he was at one point. Pulev was a top heavyweight when he Pulev was probably a top 3 heavyweight by the time Klitschko fought him. He was. If you go on BoxRec right now, you'll see that Pulev has more than enough resume wins on his resume than the majority of the guys that Fury or Wilder has faced. Like if Fury were to fight Pulev right now, or Pulev at a time where he was in his prime, the only people that Fury would have had on his resume that was better would have been probably Wilder and Klitschko. You know? Well, M Stack, explain, make your what's your stance on, like, you keep talking about Pulev. Like, what is your stance exactly on the other two? I haven't heard you say anything. You know, like, what's your stance on the other two? Because how many people that's on Wilder's resume that's better than Pulev? How many people that's on Fury's resume outside of Wilder and Klitschko is better than Pulev? You know, now I think Ortiz is better than Pulev, but Ortiz doesn't have a better resume than Pulev. You know, because Ortiz didn't really find anybody. Yeah, he is pretty much trolling at this point. I think he was triggered, and I'm gonna just assume that you're a hardcore Wilder fan, and it's okay. Well, Pulev has not. He's lost to AJ, but I wouldn't say he disappeared. I mean, he just fought AJ at the end of the year. He hasn't fought this year yet, but that says that a lot about a lot of fighters. A lot of fighters haven't really been active this year. If you go down a whole heavyweight division, how many fighters have been that active this year? No one. You know, and I don't think losing to AJ and Klitschko is not bad. You know, like, what's bad about losing to AJ and Klitschko? How bad was that? Like, how bad is Povetkin losing to AJ and Klitschko? Well, he recently lost to Dillian White, but he knocked him out first. Like, how bad is those losses? Like, people talk about their losses and then being old. M Stack, you still haven't answered my question. I answered a few of yours. You still haven't answered my question. Who are you comparing? Whose resume are you comparing it to? I'm assuming Wilder, because you sound like your comments look like Wilder. Like, I can tell. So who are you talking about? Because some people say Luis Ortiz is old. So when you say old, where are we going here? Because Ortiz is the same age as both Povetkin, Pulev, Klitschko. He's around their age. So where are we going with this? Where are we going with this? Otto Wallin is good. Otto Wallin, he's good. But before that fight, going into that fight, we didn't know much about him. He didn't fight anyone before that. And he was supposed to be a tune-up for Fury. I'm not talking about, yeah, he ended up being good because of how he looked against Fury that night. But he was supposed to be a tune-up for Fury. You know? All right. I just finished the Usyk fight. I mean, you could just kind of tell when fighters, like, or certain fans just don't really follow these fighters. Like, if you follow these fighters when they were happening, like, where were you when Klitschko fought Pulev? Like, where were you when that fight happened? I know where I was. I remember making videos and prediction videos on that. And I can tell you at that time that there was a lot of people that thought that Pulev was going to be the guy to beat Vladimir Klitschko. People, you know what people were saying? They were dumbing my videos because they thought that I was underestimating Pulev, because people thought that Pulev was the new Klitschko. Where were you when that happened? Like, where were you? You're talking about AJ and Pulev, a fight that happened not even a year ago. Where were you then? Where were you when Povetkin fought Klitschko? Like all of the fighters that you're naming now, and you're trying to make it seem like they're nobodies, like Pulev and Povetkin, all these guys are nobodies, or they're all old. Where were you when these fighters were seemed to be the next big thing in the heavyweight division? Where were you? You can tell, like the way you're talking about them, and you're comparing Fury's resume to those guys. Where were you? Or Wilder's resume? Like, where were you? You know, because you're not naming any of the fighters that Wilder faced that was better than any of those guys. You're just throwing out names that Wilder or AJ faced and calling them all old. Whatever, M Stack, you got it. You got it. You're right, bro. You're right. You're absolutely right. You know, you're right. You go 40 fights and don't fight anyone. Matter of fact, where were you when Wilder were fighting these dudes? Where were you? You're talking about fights that came the last couple of years. Anyway, let's go to the next fight. All right, so I'm gonna pull up Usyk versus. I'm gonna pull up Usyk versus Bellew. Yeah, Usyk took a snapshot early. Give me a second. And I think Bellew, I think this fight is probably the best to look at because it was probably Usyk's. It was Usyk's last cruiserweight fight. It was Usyk's last cruiserweight fight, and I think Bellew, as far as styles, you know, he's a little bit. You can compare him to AJ, you know, because Bellew was shooting that right here. I remember Bellew was just he was landing a lot of right hands on Usyk through his guard, and he was kind of trying to time Usyk as he would step in. So I think we're gonna see Bellew do some of the things that I'm expecting AJ to do in this fight. But Usyk got hit a lot in this fight, at least early on. It's just that Bellew wasn't able to hurt him. I think this is probably the best comparison. I think everybody else is just like that AJ. Like I don't think AJ is gonna fight like Breidis. I think Breidis definitely gave Usyk some great work and hit him a lot, but I don't think AJ is gonna just exchange with him like that. Like this fight here with Bellew is a lot more slower pace. Like this is a thinking kind of fight. Bellew's gonna move. He's trying to time Usyk. He slowed down the pace a little bit. Usyk is starting off slow. It's not gonna be a high volume fight type of thing. Usyk is mainly trying to shoot and land that straight left, and you have Bellew, the orthodox fighter here, that's just trying to time Usyk as he's coming in and shoot that right hand through his guard. And I think we're going to get a lot of that in the AJ fight. I think AJ is going to probably be throwing more jabs than Bellew, though. Bellew doesn't throw that many jabs here in this fight. And I think AJ is going to throw a lot of jabs to the body as well. And I think AJ's also at time is going to step in and throw more combinations. He has more power. He's better than Bellew, even he's bigger and better than Bellew, so I think Usyk has a lot more to worry about than Bellew, obviously. I mean, everybody knows this, but I think Bellew's style and the pacing of this fight here is probably a lot similar to what we're going to get with AJ, you know, in comparison to everybody else. You guys can argue with him. I think I've given him more than enough of my time. Usyk versus Steve Cunningham. I forgot that he fought. I don't remember him fighting Steve Cunningham. Did he fight Steve Cunningham? I don't think he fought Steve Cunningham. I mean, hold on. Let me go to his box rec. Usyk didn't fight Steve Cunningham. I don't remember that fight taking place. Nah, they never fought. Mm-mm. Oh, but you said Usyk versus Steve Cunningham. Yeah, I know Cunningham dropped Fury, you know, but I thought you were saying that they fought each other, you know. Damn, barbecue was rained out. Yeah, today's weather is nasty. That's why I'm staying in the house all day.
Hello, brother.
What's up, Pharaoh? What's going on?
Good man. And by the way, I'm from the UK. So,
What part?
pardon?
What part? We're in the
Manchester.
UK.
Manchester.
Oh, okay. What's up, man?
Yeah, man. But no, like, I don't know, like, okay. Can I ask you a question, brother?
Yeah.
Who do you think's gonna win the third fight between Fury and Wilder?
I'm probably
I
gonna
think
at
it's
the
a
very
setup,
end of
you
it.
know.
At the very end, I'm probably gonna pick Fury. I've been wrong twice already by picking Wilder. So
Because I remember, do you remember when you watched the first fight and then Fury got knocked down? I thought that was it.
yeah, I thought that was it too.
I thought this guy got back up. But anyway, go on, brother. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Nah. That's cool. Who do you got? Who do you got for the third fight?
I believe, yeah, because even Fury's stats came out, like in the UK media, like, because obviously the Joshua fight was, that's what I was looking for, the Joshua and Fury.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look, brother, like you said, like myself, yeah, we've watched Deontay Wilder and Fury twice. I don't want to see that fight again. I don't care. I'm not even going to buy it.
Yeah, I think what's hurting the Fury and Wilder third fight right now is the fact that people expected to see him fight Fury Joshua and Fury to fight. You know, everything was set to go, and I think once that didn't happen, you know, people just don't have the interest in the Wilder trilogy. You know, except
because I think that's where the mistake was, because we was building up for a Joshua and Fury fight. You know, and then that just gets pulled back, and now we're like sat here as boxing fans, like, what? Fury versus
came
Wilder
really
again?
close to getting the undisputed fight, but I think, you know, I mean, it goes part. It's Fury's team fault for that too, because they should have made sure that everything was clear. Listen, if you're not going to fight Wilder for a third time, don't promote an AJ
I think Tyson
fight.
Fury is the best boxing heavyweight in the world, right? But you know, with that Joshua fight, whatever they were going in the media, because Tyson Fury was on camera and saying like, "Yeah, we're gonna do it" and all this. Yeah, I think he knew for a fact he has to give Deontay Wilder a rematch. That was shady what he did. Same with his team; they knew. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That no matter what, after the second fight with Wilder, they're gonna have to give him a rematch. So they knew that fight with Joshua is not gonna happen.
Right.
I believe Tyson Fury will beat Anthony Joshua. He will outbox him. He will outbox him, because the thing is with Fury is not a knock. Not like Mike Tyson. He was a knockout artist. Fury's not that.
I mean, that's a fair assessment. I mean, Fury, to me, I think he still is a more skilled boxer. I think AJ is gonna win, but I think either way you go with it is cool. Like, I respect people that think Fury, even if you say Wilder can beat Joshua. I think it's all fair. Like, you know, going into the fight, all of these fights should happen. All of these fights should happen.
Let me give an analogy, brother. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, like you said. Yeah, Joshua beats Fury. Fury beats Wilder, and Wilder beats Joshua. What do you think about that?
Joshua beats Fury. Fury beats Wilder, and Wilder beats Joshua. At one point, I think that was always my stance on it. But I think Joshua can beat Wilder too.
You think?
Yeah, I think Joshua would beat Wilder today. But I've been on video, on camera, saying that I think Wilder would beat Joshua before. I think today in a fight today, Joshua beats Wilder.
What do you think? I can't see it, bro. Because
yeah, I mean, listen, we can all see whatever we want to see if we're not watching a fight. You know, I mean, these guys actually fight each other, then we'll know the answer.
Another interesting question, brother. Another interesting question, yeah? I know this is in the past, yeah? But like in the prime time, yeah? Both in the primes, yeah? Tyson versus Muhammad Ali. No, you know, like Mike Tyson versus Muhammad Ali. Who do you think is gonna win that? Oof.
And both are in their primes.
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me.
I'm gonna probably go with Muhammad Ali, man. I think when I was a kid, I said Mike Tyson up until maybe I was like 20-something years old. But I think Muhammad Ali today.
You think? Imagine, how many people do you think would watch that fight if it was like tomorrow? Billions, yeah.
Well, you mean totally unplanned, unscheduled? Just come out and they decide.
For example, okay, let's say this is just a hyper speaking, yeah. If, for example, they announced, yeah, we're gonna bring back Muhammad Ali. You know, may God have mercy on his soul, yeah. And Mike Tyson, both in their primes. How many people do you think are going to be tuned in to watch that fight?
I think the world would watch it. I don't think anybody. Like, whatever the highest, you know, we got Floyd and Manny Pacquiao. I think if they both were in their primes and this fight was actually scheduled and built up, it would be the biggest fight of all time, clearly, easily.
Yeah. All right. Am I right to stay on? Am I right to, because I can see somebody else who's just joined in. Am I right to stay on the phone with you guys, or?
Yeah, you can stay on. What's up, M Stacks? You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't want to give too much background while he was talking or whatever. What's going on, BoxingWave?
What's up, bro? Talk to me.
I mean, people in the comments are calling me a troll, but I'm asking questions and no one's answering. No one's saying I'm wrong, and the only way to defend AJ, it seems like you got to defend Wilder, down Wilder. without
I think it's very
Wilder.
my opinion of AJ is this. AJ with this, right? I'm from Britain, right? I've met AJ. Listen, brother. I've met AJ, right? You know, with AJ, yeah, he's been built up, yeah. He's been built up, yeah, with the media, yeah. Like this guy was invincible. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Fury's different. Fury says whatever he wants. He's been fined by calling gay people. You understand?
Right.
But AJ has been built up, yeah, to be like, this is the guy. Do you understand?
Right.
There's a difference. For example, like, you know, Fury, he doesn't, even if he beat Wilder, when he beat Wilder, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. But AJ will, you know.
Okay.
You understand?
All right,
That's
so look,
the difference.
hold on. Pharaoh, hold on.
Yeah.
M-Stack.
Yeah.
Even Wilder doesn't get the credit he deserves in America.
When you say what were you saying? You said that Joshua hasn't really fought anybody. He's not fighting the best. Okay. When we're bringing down resumes, can you compare what the other two has done in comparison to him?
Absolutely. Okay, can I answer that question?
Pharaoh, chill.
I apologize, guys. I'm so sorry. I am passionate. I'm not coming across.
You gotta chill.
Compare resumes, and the whole notion of going to the resume is like, okay, we can go to resumes all day, but it doesn't matter if the dude's 40, 41, 42 years old. Did you see Pulev versus AJ? Did you
sorry,
see
who's 40, sorry, who's 41 years old? I apologize.
Pulev was 41. He won 30 nothing.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay, but what's your point exactly?
Yeah,
because you just said a minute ago.
The guy's got 4 belts. The guy's got 4 belts. Why is he fighting?
Yeah, but you, brother, you're going. Listen, brother. You said
Pharaoh.
Damn.
Gotta mute you, bro. Gotta mute you. All right. M-Stacks. Sorry. What is the problem with him fighting Pulev?
Because Pulev, did you see that fight? First of all, did you see that fight?
Of course, I covered the fight.
Okay. In your opinion, did Pulev fight like a top heavyweight? Did he look like a threat to any of the top heavyweights when he fought that fight? Getting uppercutted 5 times in a row, several times in the fight.
No, but he fought AJ. So you're what I'm saying is what I was trying to tell you in the comments while you were in the comments. What I'm trying to explain to you is that Pulev has only lost. Do you know did you watch any of his other fights?
Yes.
You sure?
Pulev was a threat.
All right, but which fights did you see? And what did you see in those fights?
I seen him fight Klitschko. And I seen him in his last fight before Joshua. And the
the only other fight, the only fight that you could say that you remember seeing is when he fought the other best heavyweight.
Yeah.
So you didn't see any of the other fights that he's fought in.
I seen him fight Vladimir, and I saw him in his last fight, and then I just seen him in his fight with Joshua. And the fight with Joshua really said it the most. First of all, the fight before that didn't even warrant for him to get a title shot at Joshua. It was a waste of time. That's what I'm saying. He's fighting these wasted time fights. You only got so many.
That's a good question because I'm getting confused. What's your point? Like, I don't know.
Like Pharaoh, like you keep talking and you won't let me talk and get to the point.
Okay. All right, but what I'm asking you is everything you're saying about Pulev. What has the other two done as far as their resumes and the people that fought? Like Wilder's never fought any of these type of people that you claim. Fury has never fought any of these type of people as well. They don't have these kind of people on their resumes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's only lost to AJ and Klitschko. You didn't watch his fight with Derek Chisora?
Who, Pulev?
Yeah, did you watch it?
I didn't see that one.
I see they dominated it.
But Derek Chisora, is he a top heavyweight? What, 9 losses, 10 losses?
Okay, but Yes, he's still.
Going life and death with guys.
Unfortunately, he's still a top 10 heavyweight.
Can I just ask a question, please, guys? Okay, in the two fights, yeah, Fury and Joshua fought Klitschko, correct? Yeah.
Repeat it.
Which one would you say was the better fight? Was it Klitschko or Fury? I think Fury.
Yeah, okay,
Joshua struggled against Klitschko. Correct?
What did you ask? You just had
both of you. I'm just asking your opinion. Who do you think was the better fight? Klitschko versus Fury or Klitschko versus Joshua?
The better fight, the more entertaining fight was definitely AJ versus Klitschko.
Mm-hmm.
That made me an AJ fan. Mm-hmm. When I seen that fight, I went nuts.
How did you feel when? Let me ask you a question. How did you feel when Wilder fought Brazil after AJ already had knocked him out?
I figured he was going to knock him out early, which he did.
All right, but
he did exactly.
Did you have a problem with that fight?
No competition.
Did you have a problem with that fight?
No, I ain't have a problem with that fight.
Why not?
Because Wilder's being ducked.
What?
Wilder's being ducked.
Wilder's always been beaten. Listen, look at the fight with Ortiz. Ortiz was winning until he got that knockout punch.
AJ, why didn't AJ fight him? He was with Matchroom and everything. Why didn't AJ fight Ortiz?
I definitely didn't make this video to go through the history. Hold on. Let me tell you something. I'm not gonna go down a history of why AJ and I definitely didn't make this upload about them. You know, this is something that I've made countless videos on. Countless. All right.
Yeah,
and I'm not going through the history of that. But you're not really being consistent on your stance here. I mean, you have a problem, a serious problem with Pulev.
You made videos, you won't answer my question. Why didn't AJ
I don't have
because
I just told you. I just told you.
Man, this is his channel.
You said what?
You gotta let me talk.
Respectful, man.
Hold on. I definitely didn't pull this video up to explain to you why AJ didn't fight Deontay Wilder or why Deontay Wilder didn't fight him on multiple. I mean, I can tell that you're clearly misinformed. All right. And you don't really know a lot about these fighters on both ends. I don't think you know a lot about the opponents with Wilder, with Fury, and with AJ.
Yeah.
You clearly don't watch these guys fight. I don't think you know the history of these guys' career, none of their opponents. I think you know the major names. You keep bringing up the Pulev fight, and that's the one and sole fight that you keep bringing up. I'm not going to break down the entire history and background.
Bro, mute. No, listen, let him finish.
You know, listen,
Bro,
that information is out there. If you want to believe what, like, your mind sounds made up.
So he didn't fight his Mando and Ortiz. He's fighting 40-year-olds left and right. He fought Klitschko off a 2 year.
How old is Ortiz, sir? How old is Ortiz?
Not Ortiz. Klitschko. He fought Klitschko off a 2 year layoff.
How old is Ortiz?
Ortiz is 40.
More, I think he's older than that. I think he was like 42 when he fought Joshua.
He was a mandatory to AJ. AJ supposedly fighting on his Mandos, but he didn't fight that Mando.
Okay, can I ask you a question, Mostak? What is your point? What are you trying to get to? I don't understand. You're confusing me.
My point is, I'm asking you the hard questions, and no one wants to answer.
It's not a hard question at all.
Wants to talk about Wilder.
It's not you have not asked a hard question at all. Every point that you're trying to make, you can contradict because everything that Wilder and Fury has done is the same stuff.
Who's the best opponent that Joshua's fought?
I'll answer that. I'll probably say Klitschko, to be honest.
Klitschko.
That's only Andy. Yeah.
40-year-old coming off.
I would probably say Klitschko.
Mostak 85. You're just interrupting. You're not even letting people finish the sentence, right? Can I finish?
I'll probably say Klitschko.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. Am I lying, BoxingWave?
Am I wrong?
All right. Who's the best person Wilder fought?
Fury.
No, who's the best person Wilder beat?
I would say Ortiz.
Are you going to compare Klitschko to Ortiz?
I'm not comparing anybody. I'm saying Wilder was there to fight.
Is Ortiz better than Klitschko?
Hell no.
What do you mean? Coming off a 2-year layoff?
Is Ortiz even better than Joseph Parker?
Yes. Joseph Parker ain't shit.
How? In what way?
What has Joseph Parker done?
No, Ortiz is better than Joseph Parker, man. I have to agree with you. He is better than Joseph Parker.
What has Joseph Parker done?
What's Ortiz's best win?
Ortiz's best win.
Yeah, what is it?
I have to get back to you on that one.
All right, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I don't think you're a boxing fan. I think you're just a troll,
but the difference between me and you is I'm answering yours. You're not answering mine.
You're not answering any questions. Oh, no, you're not answering any questions.
I've answered all of your questions,
You're just
man.
confusing us. You're just confusing us because it doesn't make sense what you're saying.
That's sad. And that happened.
All right, M-Stack, I got to keep you in the comments. All right, yo, Pharaoh, listen, thanks for joining. We gotta get back to the show. But I didn't really.
I'm not on the show. Oh man.
Yeah, I didn't really make the video to talk about the. I want to get back to the Usyk talk and stuff.
What was the topic? I joined halfway through it. What was the topic?
Well, we're just keeping. We're talking more about Usyk. Who do you think is going to win the fight between Usyk and Joshua?
Joshua. Okay, can I ask you a question before I go? You know when Joshua first won the the heavyweight championship, yeah? Do you not think that fight, with Charles was a bit dodgy, wasn't it?
Wait, say that again.
Okay, do you know that fight with Charles? Remember when Joshua had the fight with Charles?
With who? I'm sorry, I can't understand.
No, it's okay. Hold on. Let me get it up here. Sorry, hold on, yeah. Charles Martin, that's it.
Charles. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
I think that was a paid fight.
What about that fight?
I think Charles Martin was paid, to do that, because don't forget the referee counted him out. 1, 2, and then this guy had his knees, and his shoulder. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't like knocked out or anything. Do you know what I mean? But he didn't get up to the count. I think that was paid. This is what I'm saying. Joshua has got a media machine. People see him as a role model. Do you know what I mean? Whilst Fury,
I hear your stance, bro. I don't agree with you, but listen, real quick, just give me, because I want to keep it going. Who do you think is winning this fight between Joshua and Usyk?
Joshua. But I have been wrong because I thought Joshua was going to beat Andy. I don't know.
All right, bro. I'm gonna give somebody else a chance to speak, man. Thank you for joining up.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Yo, what's up, bro? You hear me? You there?
Oh yeah. How are you, man?
What's going on, man? You at work, man?
Yeah, I'm at work.
Yeah, what's up, man? Thank you, man. You've been here. You've been a subscriber for a minute, man.
Yeah, man. It's nice to finally be able to talk to you. But I don't know what these guys were talking about. I mean, I feel like at the heavyweight division, like age is usually just a number. It's more about the skill. Because them heavyweight
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you can't base it strictly on age. I mean, look what Manny Pacquiao is still able to do against these young guys, and even Klitschko at his age. He gave Joshua a good fight, and I think a lot of people don't like the. I mean, when it comes to Joshua and Klitschko, I think people don't give Joshua as much credit as the Fury performance, but that's understandable because Fury beat him first and everything. But you gotta understand too that I believe that Klitschko took a way different approach against Joshua. Klitschko took an approach where he wanted to knock Joshua out, where the Fury fight, he was lunging in to hold continuously. You know, he wasn't trying to fight him. And we got to also understand that the Klitschko and Fury rematch never occurred. That fight might have went differently if there was a rematch. We don't know. But Fury retired after that. You know, so I think people just you know, certain people don't really know. You can tell, like, when people just listen to videos of other channels, don't really follow the sport like that. And it is what it is. It's part of the game.
Yeah. And also, so I had a question earlier. Like, has there ever been a time where we haven't had a heavyweight champion, American heavyweight champion? Like, when's the last time that happened?
I think it was Lennox Lewis. Oh well, but before Wilder, it was Lennox Lewis.
It was Lennox Lewis.
No, well, no, not because he's not American. You know, we tend to think he's American.
Yeah, like what I was trying to say was, like, has there ever been a time besides now that we never had like an American champion? Because to me, when I look back, it seems like we always had at least one American heavyweight champion. You know what I mean? But right now we ain't got none. They're all British. That's crazy.
Was it Briggs? Was it Shannon Briggs?
Possibly.
He might have been the last one, man.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, Ruiz.
Yeah.
Ruiz was he was a Mexican fighter, but was he was he American? I mean, he's a Mexican fighter. I think he was
he Mexican American?
Yeah, Roy Jones won a title, though. He won a heavyweight title. So we can count him. But yeah, you know, I think it's good that Wilder held the belt. I just wish he unified, you know. That's my whole thing. He never unified, and you know, people blame everyone but Wilder for not unifying. I think Wilder had enough fights to where he put himself in a championship position way before he fought Berman Stavern, you know, to have that many 30+ knockouts and not getting a championship fight. You know, I think he could have definitely fought, you know, one of the Klitschko's, you know, before AJ and Fury was even a factor in the sport. I thought Wilder was definitely, I mean, he is older than these guys. He's like 4 or 5 years older than these guys, you know. So, and that's my whole stance, you know. I think people that defend Wilder, and I don't think everything is his fault completely. You know, I'm not one of those channels that blame everything on Wilder. But I also feel that this guy was ahead of the game. He has more professional fight. He's been pro longer, and he's older than these guys. And I'm like, where were you all of these years? Where were you? You know?
Yeah.
You know, but you know what? Some people. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with Farrell when he was saying that. I also feel like AJ beats Fury, Fury beats Wilder, and Wilder beats AJ. Like that's how I always thought it was gonna be. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's just about. I just want to see the fights, man. I can't wait for Wilder and Fury 3. I was the first fight, the first Wilder Fury. I was picking Fury to beat Wilder, but then when I saw that knockout on the second fight, I picked Wilder to beat Fury. I'm like, you know what, he's gonna get cut.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a whole reversal. So now I don't even know. I thought, like, you know, maybe Fury will beat Wilder in the third fight, but right now I feel like Wilder is so focused, and Fury is just like, his mind, he's not. I don't think he's all there right now. So I don't even know who to pick. You know, I just want to see the fight.
I agree. You know, and I've been saying that a lot in my most recent videos. Like, I haven't made like an actual video breaking down the fight or anything yet, but it's really hard to decide on who's gonna win, because I see that Wilder is motivated, you know. I think sometimes it takes a loss for somebody to really get motivated, you know, and understand that, yo, you got to change something. What always worked before it's not going to work. Chris Bird, someone says Chris Bird. Xavier says, thanks. I totally forgot about Chris Bird. My bad. But yeah, I think what was I saying? Yeah, it's really hard to call, because Wilder does finally seem really, really motivated for this fight. And Fury, we don't know. We all we know is that he's never had a title defense. You know, he's a 2-time champ, and we just don't know what's going to happen here. It's hard to predict. Where is Fury's mind at? Is he really motivated? Is he overlooking Wilder because of not just the first fight? I mean, not just the second fight, but because of the first two. Because a lot of people feel that he won the fight as far as rounds.
Yeah.
You know? So, as far as scoring is concerned. So it's hard to really call. But what I will say is, you know, if Wilder end up going in there and knocking him out, I would not be surprised at all. I would not be surprised. I picked Wilder both times. Picked him the first time. Thought it was too soon for Fury to fight Wilder. Picked him the second time because the way that the first fight ended, even though I think Fury won the fight, I was like, nah, Wilder's going to catch him with a right hand this time. He's going to catch him this time. And now we're going into the third fight, and I'm just like, what's up with, you know, this COVID situation? They postponed the fight again. I really don't know. Is Fury really up for this fight? Is he really training? There's nothing out there. You know, but you know what? Fury likes to manipulate the public too. So that's another thing you got to keep in mind.
Yeah.
You know, he might not be putting much content out there, but it doesn't mean that he's not preparing for this fight, you know?
Yeah. And last thing, I just want to see like a unified, you know, heavyweight champ. But I feel like here's how I see the Usyk AJ fight.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Usyk is going to be smart enough to be able to evade AJ's punches. I feel like AJ's gonna probably hurt him a few times, but I feel like Usyk's gonna be able to outbox him. But I don't think that he's going to be able to get the decision. You know, that's just how I see the fight. Because I don't see Usyk stopping AJ, but I also don't see AJ knocking out Usyk. You know, he has the power to, but I just don't feel he'd be able to land that kind of punch to, you know, to knock him out. So I see probably Usyk winning, you know, the fight, but not the decision, because it's going to be like a close fight. And then they're just going to give it to AJ, you know?
It's possible, man. I think it's a really credible fight.
Yeah.
And Usyk definitely got skills. Just got to see how he can do it against a top elite heavyweight. You know, we'll wait and see. But, you know, I think I'm leaning towards AJ for this one.
Yeah, right? I mean, Usyk definitely got the skills. He definitely got the skill. I think he's probably, I don't know how many cruiserweight went up to become heavyweight. I know Evander Holyfield did, and I don't know the others. But if there's a cruiserweight out there that can become heavyweight champion, he's definitely Usyk. You know, he has the tools to do it. But these guys are just so big up there, you know. So yeah, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right.
All right, man. It was nice talking to you. I gotta go back to work, man. Take care.
All right, take care, brother. Thanks for checking in.
All right, bye-bye.
RGM, what's up, man? Textbook Boxing, what's going on?
Hey, what up, BoxingWave?
What's
so
happening?
we're talking about this AJ versus Usyk.
What's your thoughts, man? Tell me. Talk to me.
I think Usyk is going to give AJ some problems in this fight. But ultimately, I think AJ is going to adjust, and I think he'll get a late round stoppage. That's what I think is going to happen. He might even win by on points, because although Usyk is probably more skilled technically, it's not like AJ has no skill. AJ has, I think he has probably one of the best skill sets in the heavyweight division. If he's second to anybody, it's only Tyson Fury, in my opinion. I think he has better. Yeah, so it's not like he doesn't. Well, and probably Usyk, but it's not like he doesn't have any skills. So, I just think the power difference is what's going to make the difference in this fight. And I definitely have AJ winning. Usyk does have a chance to win, though. I'm not writing him off at all. And AJ better not be writing him off, because that will yeah, I don't think he will either.
I don't think he is, not at all.
After losing to Ruiz, you said this just a little while ago while you were talking with the other gentleman, and that is, losing sometimes is a motivator. I think it not only was it a motivator for him, but it was also a learning experience. So I don't think he'll make those mistakes. I think he's picked up some new tools along the way in losing to Ruiz, and I think that's how the fight's gonna go down.
Nah, that's a great. You know what? I see it the same way as you. I think Usyk is going to be a tough opponent, and you know if AJ, let me tell you something. If AJ was to lose to Usyk, I think it would be a respectable loss. It won't be an embarrassing one like the way the Ruiz situation went down. You know, I think it would be like, yo, if he loses to Usyk, he lost. He lost against a better fighter, a really good fighter. You know, a former undisputed fighter that moved up. You know, and historically, he'll be the only cruiserweight that was undisputed to go up and become. Well, he won't be undisputed yet. You know, because and Van Holyfield was actually undisputed. He won't be undisputed yet, but that would be, you know, definitely go down as the greatest, or at least the second greatest cruiserweight ever. You know, historically, after Van Holyfield. Textbook, what's up, bro? What do you think?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Sound good.
Yeah, good. It's a difficult one, really, because, well, the thing is because I kind of make like boxing breakdown videos kind of on the side. So I'm doing one actually for Usyk as we speak. It's taking me absolutely ages. So I've watched quite a lot of him. Mm-hmm. And I will say that the more I've seen of Usyk, the more I think, the more interested I'm in the Joshua fight, because I could only really see two ways that Joshua wins it. Either, you know, plan A, he just comes out and rushes him, and I don't really think he'll do that. Or plan B is that he sits back and waits for Usyk to make some of his angles, and then he clips him with a big right hand, which could happen. But I just think that Usyk also, it's worth, this was kind of something I noticed, that Usyk's got a real weird tendency that kind of like Manny Pacquiao-esque of when he throws the left hand, he always brings his left foot forward. So he sometimes comes pretty square. Mm-hmm. And against, you saw it quite a lot against Bellew, and you saw it against Breidis quite a bit as well. And I could see Joshua literally just stepping him back and clipping it with the right hand. But I'll be honest, I've been saying this for genuinely years now, that I'm not convinced about Joshua's gas tank. I think the only fight that I think he's done because he's obviously done late fights before. He's gone rounds, but he's done it at his own pace a lot of the time. You know, I think about, Parker, and think against Takam. Against the only real fights that kind of came to my mind was against Povetkin and maybe Pulev. And when Joshua is kind of forced to go rounds and to kind of trade when he doesn't really want to trade, even against Ruiz, he never really looked, in the second fight, I don't really ever think he looked comfortable. I just think Ruiz was so heavy, he wasn't able to track him down at all. And I think against someone like Usyk, if it does go more than 4 rounds, I could easily see Joshua just stepping back, hitting with the right hand, and then busting up, putting him on the ropes, and then landing a load of combinations and ending the fight that way. But oddly enough, I actually think Joshua's best chance would be to try and take him early. I think the longer the fight goes, you saw it in the first fight against Ruiz that Joshua can look pretty static. I'll be interested to see what weight he comes in at against Usyk, because I'd be interested to see what game plan he has.
You seem really, really, really torn, and I feel you. Yeah, listen. Really difficult. I think one thing about AJ, one thing you just said to respond, I think AJ, because he's shown to have a poor gas tank at times. Unfortunately, I don't think AJ will want to come straight at Usyk early. I think, I think sometimes he should, but I just don't think. I think he's just too cautious at this point.
Yeah, it's not his nature.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, Karen, sorry.
A little bit. No, we were talking earlier a little bit about Dillian White, and then I remember that fight where, because it was Dillian White, he wanted to go in there and knock him out. Whereas in this fight, or in his recent fights, he's just more like focused on his endurance and being able to fight at a high level late. And as far as Andy Ruiz, yes, that is the fight that we like to go back on, because that's the fight we saw him slim down and fight for a good 12 rounds at a high level. Yes. But like I was saying to the people earlier in this video, is you can't compare Andy Ruiz Jr. in a rematch to Alexander Usyk. You just can't. You know, it's no way. In no way. No. You know, outside of power, there's really nothing there to compare it to. You know, Usyk has every advantage over Andy in that rematch. You know, he can definitely get in closer on Joshua if he's better at doing it, where Andy really didn't know what to do. It was Joshua was in control the whole time, you know.
In the second fight, do you mean?
Yeah, in the second. I'm talking about all second fight.
To be honest, I mean, I have only watched that fight the once, and because it was just such a dreadful fight that I couldn't bear watch that again. But yeah, again, it's difficult because it was the second fight. It wasn't Saudi Arabia. If Joshua lost that fight, he would have, he'd gone back to not the square one, but you know what I'm saying. But Joshua, to me, still when he was backed up and he was in those corner positions, he still didn't look comfortable to me. It just looked. I just when I watched that fight, I just think Joshua won that fight because part of the reason was because Ruiz came in just so heavy that he wasn't able to cut him off at all. But when he occasionally did have him in those backed into a corner in maybe a little bit more close quarters, I still didn't think Joshua looked comfortable. I mean, that's could be PTSD from the first fight, and I don't think Usyk is. I've seen a hell of a lot of Usyk, and I don't think he's explosive. But,
maybe it was all mental. I mean, he just lost to the guy, so he knew that if he lost again, it might have been over. Most people didn't even think he should have fought him in a rematch. Biker, what's up, man? How do you feel?
Hello, BoxingWave. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Clearly, loud and clear.
All right. Sorry if I'm too loud or something. But yeah, first thing I want to say is I am young. I'm 22 years old, and I'm a fairly new boxing fan. So yeah, with that being said, I would have to go with the safe pick, which is Anthony Joshua. But yeah, obviously Usyk can win. Yeah, not a very expansive analysis there, but as a new boxing fan, that's how I see it.
How'd you get into the sport? Like,
it was. I think it was like the very first. I think it was. It was either Tyson Fury versus Wilder 1, or it was KSI versus Logan Paul, and I was like, it's pretty cool that YouTubers are actually going to fight, even though, I mean, I'm gonna be real, I don't know if that fight was real or fake, but yeah, that's where I started watching. I'm like, okay, well, what's the current heavyweights right now? Like, what are the actual professionals doing right now? And that's how I got into it. So yeah, I just happened upon your channel and I started watching that because, so I can get in on new fighters and a bit better analysis that's more casual, not from the professionals.
Got you. Do you have a current favorite, like anybody that you watching a lot right now that you're new to?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, for a while I just watched all of Lomachenko's fights. I watched all of like Anthony Joshua's main fights. But yeah, I would say right now, like Anthony Joshua and Fury and Lomachenko are kind of interesting to me.
Got you. Well, listen, welcome to the sport. I've been watching it since I was a kid because my dad was a big fan. So I don't want to say it's the worst time. I think it's just that it's different because of social media, I think social media makes it where it's like boxing is kind of weird now. Like you see a lot of boxers that should be fighting each other, tweeting at each other all day, but never fight each other. You know, it's kind of weird seeing that. So
for me, honestly, the weirdest thing is like that there's like 5 million different belts, like heavyweights. There's like 12 belts and all these different organizations. And all right, I'm from Eastern Europe. I'm be real. I pirate a little bit. All right. I'm not paying like 12 different subscription services. That's going to be like my monthly salary to like watch all these different fighters. At least with the UFC, it's kept tight. You know, it's like, hey, this is the UFC. Like, I watch more UFC, to be honest. Like with the UFC, boom, you buy the UFC, you get everything.
Well, listen, you know, welcome to the sport, you know, and thanks for joining the channel, you know, the panel today. Good to have you here. I hope you stick around and continue watching more videos, man. And come back, you know, come back at times. I'm probably gonna have more of these open panels, you know, more often. Now I like talking to you guys directly, you know, instead of just reading comments. So all right, but bring it back over to RGM. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I mean,
one thing go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure you just listened to a lot. Anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, it was back to the Joshua Usyk thing. I forgot to mention that Joshua does also have problems with guys shorter than him. Now, Usyk is, if I'm not mistaken, is only 2 inches shorter than him, but still he's used to fighting guys who are his height, or in some cases maybe even a little taller. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up as well. And yeah, Biker, welcome to the sport. I agree. The whole thing. Some of the organizations have multiple belts in each division, so I could definitely understand how how that's strange. And all I gotta say is it takes a little bit of studying, but after a while you get the hang of it. You kind of understand how it works to an extent, because I'll be honest with you, in some cases these sanctioning bodies and organizations kind of do whatever they feel like.
Yeah, and being a UFC fan, it got to be like I could never imagine me becoming a boxing fan like right now. Like, and if I was, I would only like stick to just you're probably better off like just being a casual fan and not knowing anything about the politics. You know, like if you're just a guy that just wants to wait for a big fight to happen and tune into it, you're probably better off just doing that. I think the more you really know about the sport, the more angry you're going to become because you know about all of the belts, you know all about the promoters and networks, you know about why the fights are not occurring, fights that should happen, fights that are getting canceled, you know, fighters pulling out, you know, and the managers get involved, the promoters get involved, they say things that we hate. Sometimes they stop fights from happening. And I think if you are, when it comes to boxing, because if you look at the UFC or if you look at MMA, but let's just stick it to UFC. UFC have it. It's very simple. You know, you have a weight division and you have one champion. You know, and the guy that's the number one guy that's like always a mandatory. You got to fight that number one guy. You know, every once in a while they'll have certain fights where, you know, they have a Brock Lesnar guy or, you know, a guy with a big name that's going to come in and fight the champion or whatever. But outside of that, it's pretty simple. You know what's going on. You know who's a champ and you know who he has to face. And this is why most of those guys over there can't stay undefeated, because they have to constantly fight the best. You know, they might go on a nice run. Mighty Mouse went on a nice run. He had a nice run. I don't remember how many wins he had when he was winning all those fights, but you know, eventually you got to lose because you got to keep constantly fighting the best guy in your division, you know? And boxing is weird. You got 4 major titles. Then you got like a couple of other not so major titles. And then you have all the smaller titles under each main title, or it's confusing, you know? So yeah, I think that's what it is. You know, if I'm a boxing fan coming into the sport, I would just pay attention to the fights and stay away from the politics. You're better off not knowing. you know, because then you could just become an angry fan and just argue all day about the politics, which most of us do. All the hardcore does, you know, all we do is talk about the politics all day. You can't avoid it. Yeah.
And I say, just if I can jump in quickly, I think one of the you know, I don't know if you can hear, but you know, I'm British, but I think one of the main differences between one of the main reasons between the health of boxing in the US and in the UK is that here in the UK we really rep for our home fighters, even if they're not in world level fights. You know, we had AJ v White for the British title. I went to a Midlands area title here in the UK. You know, I went to uni in Birmingham, and people go crazy for it. And I just think there's a more depth of support in the UK that there is in the US. I mean, why is that? I mean, you know, you can go into, you know, people here in the UK support pretty crap, you know, football teams that I just don't think would really fly in the US. But sorry, yeah, I'm rambling here, but
no, I get you. No, speak your piece.
It's an interesting topic, really.
Yeah. What's up, Xavier? What's going on?
Not much. I'm just you got me interested by talking about like being a casual, how it's just better in a way, because like I got into the sport 4 years ago, and since then I've done a deep dive into the history of the sport and watched a lot of fights. And at this point, I don't really watch that much modern boxing. In the last couple months, I've seen Manny Pacquiao fight, and I saw the fight last night or yesterday. That's it. This whole Jake Paul thing. All I know about that fight is he won, and I've seen a picture of him in the hospital bloodied and on the ropes bloodied, keeping them up. And it's just like, I recommend to a newer fan to just be casual to the current landscape, because if you aren't, you'll end up on multiple hour live streams of people arguing over purse bids that you won't see any of the money for. And you'll end up not watching fights. You'll end up looking through records and just not understanding the history of it. And there are just hundreds of fights that you could watch. Look through the history of the sport, watch Joe Louis's fights, watch Ali's fights, watch the lightweight championship in the 40s. There's not much of it, but in the 50s, there's a little bit more footage. But just like watching historic fights, I started like, I watched all of Floyd Mayweather's fights when I got interested, because I got interested just like seeing a highlight reel of him of defense. So I watched all his fights, and then I started watching the heavyweight championship throughout the decades, just one fight after the other. I started with Floyd Patterson and then went all the way through to Lennox Lewis. And that's just the best thing you can do for yourself as a fight fan, is watch fights and not listen to people bicker and listen to multimillionaire crybabies cry about not getting more millions than they already have, because it's just not worth it. Like the UFC, they've had multiple heavyweight title fights since the pandemic. Fury hasn't fought once, and he's had 5 fights scheduled. It's just not worth it to get into all that. It's just a big waste of time. It's a soap opera, really.
Well, yeah, going back to what Biker said, or well, him being a UFC fan, we were still getting heavyweight matches between the heavyweight champ, you know, and Stipe and DC last year in an empty room. And these are like the top heavyweights fighting in an empty room, you know. I mean, listen, it was a pay-per-view and everything, but the fact that they still was active during the pandemic says a lot, you know. Well, people are going to say, well, the UFC, you know, MMA fighters don't get paid as much, so that's the reason why they do it. They don't get paid as much, whereas in boxing, you know, everything needs to be perfect, you know, to make them the same amount of money. But what I do like about it over there is that it just shows the difference. Yeah, the boxers do get paid more money, but at the same time, these guys are more willing to fight over there. You know, they want their fighters at the end of the day, At the end of the day, at the very last end of the day, no matter who they are, they're still going to be a fighter. They still want to be the best. Whereas boxing is just, most of these guys don't even fight anymore, and everything is a cherry pick. All of these fighters or the top fighters, a lot of them are picking their fights, and staying on a certain side of the streets and yada, yada, yada. It's just weird, keeping things in-house. I mean, that's been going on for a while, even with some of the greats, so it is what it is. But I would just remain a casual, I think it's the best way. We're getting a public purse bid viewing between Sean Porter and Terrence Bud Crawford. Like, where did that start? Like, I don't care about the purse bid. I don't need to see it. Just give us the fight. I don't care how you guys are negotiating, but I think they're doing it because they understand how the fans are today. All of us are sitting here talking about the purses. People make videos based on viewership of a fight alone. This guy got 250K buyers. I'm making content on that. There's a lot of channels that do it. And listen, do what you want to do. I'm not hating or criticizing any channel for doing it. But what I'm saying is these promoters, these fighters, they understand that the fans are all into the business. As much as they complain about it, they're into it, fully invested into it, especially the content creators.
Yeah, BoxingWave. What's interesting about what you just said is when that purse bid was originally set to happen on the 2nd, probably about a week before that, I heard somebody in the community saying, "I can't wait till the purse bid." Like that. That's what it's come to.
These guys sound like business fans.
Yeah,
not even fight. They're just fans of business.
This is boxing marketing. This sport has become boxing marketing 101. This has become a course.
And a course of how to fail at it, because Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns were making more money just without inflation than these guys are making today. Without adjusting for inflation, they were making more millions than these guys are making. It's just pathetic. Like boxing course 101 of how to crash the market.
Yeah. I've told a couple of these fans, because I work from home, like many people do right now. But I've told a couple fans, like, hey, you really into watching somebody make some money? I could set up a chair in my in my home office, and you could just watch me work, and then I'll show you when I deposit my paycheck. Like, because they seem to be.
Well, you have to pay to watch it, right? Pay $90.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. I'll start the gate low, but. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people that, like, we're here talking about accomplishments, and then you'll have somebody say, oh, but so-and-so. I once heard somebody talk about how Tank Davis is driving like a Lamborghini or something, and Terrence Crawford is driving in like a Ford Focus or something like that. It's like, that doesn't matter. We're talking about competition here, and you're talking about
or Instagram followers. Followers, what Ryan does all the time. Like, yo, I got 7 million followers. You only got 500,000. Like, so what, bro? Like, like, how many are you selling out arenas or even saying that? It's like, so what? You have no titles. You didn't fight anyone good yet. Like, what's going on? I mean, he has now, but that shouldn't be the first response when someone's calling you out on a fight.
And him and Haney are going at it on social media ever since Haney made that comment about Reynoso's camp being dirty. And they have gone back and forth. And I saw somebody say, there is a way you guys could settle this.
Yeah, man. That's not the way to do it.
Once this year. Like, what the hell? He's talking all this shit, and he's had one fight 9 months ago.
Who, Ryan?
Yeah, he fought in January, right? That was his last fight.
Yeah, that was his last
September.
fight. Yeah, and
it's September now.
He pulled out of a fight because of his mental, and that's a whole nother thing too.
About that. That's
if that's true.
Not paying attention.
Yeah, you pull out of a fight because of your mental health. Cool, but don't brag about how famous you are, and then you tell us right after that you're having mental health issues at the same time, because mentally, you know, if you're struggling and you're stressed and you're depressed, yet you're going to use your following account to make it seem like you're superior to others, you know, as far as fame or whatever. I mean, this is boxing at the end of the day. You know, we want to see you fight. But if you're pulling out of fights because you're depressed, don't act like, you know, you're bigger than others based on your popularity, you know. And that's why I'm just like, I lost a lot of respect for them. But, you know, I'm not going to dig too deep into it. I mean, he's only like 23 years old at the end of the day. I mean, what do you know, how I just want him to get back in the ring. But if he does get back in the ring, I want him to be himself too, you know. 9 months is bad being out, but it's actually a normal thing at this point, because most of these fighters are fighting only once or twice a year, you know, at the elite level.
And here's the thing about how bad it's really gone with inactivity is that Ryan Garcia's had 21 fights and he's 23. Battling Shaw had 119 fights and retired at 25 years old.
Damn.
I got another comparison. You know, we all talk about how Jake Paul is just a celebrity boxer, and I don't like Jake Paul, but I gotta put this into perspective. Jake Paul has had more fights in the past year than Keith Thurman has had in the past 5 years.
That's crazy. How many times he fought this year? Was it 3? Yeah, I think so, right? 3 or 4?
Yeah, like 3 or 4. He's been fighting for 3 years and he's had 5 fights. Keith Thurman has had, what, 2 fights in the past 5 years?
Yeah. I mean,
but I wanted to say, you know, again, touch up even a bit on the previous point. Like, yeah, at first when I really got into it and I like started watching all the Tyson Fury fights, all the Anthony Joshua fights, all the Lomachenko fights, you know, I started like really getting into boxing. But like around last year, I was just like, I started just watching casually. You know, I watch BoxingWave. Is there something interesting? Yes or no? And I'll just tune into the big fight, because at this point, like, I just want to see people fight. You know, I'm Eastern European, all right? I want to see 2 guys fighting. I don't want to.
You really want to see that? Watch old fights. This fight I've got on my picture is Jimmy McLaren and Barney Ross. They fought 3 times. And all 3 of those are on YouTube.
Started watching some older stuff, but you know, I don't want to sit here and listen 3 hours about, oh, but this contract and this payback, but no, you backed out of the contract, but no, I didn't, etc., etc. You know, I want to watch people fight.
Yeah, and you know, it's unfortunate, and I was actually thinking about this. So the unfortunate part about it all is that, you know, the media and even the content creators like myself, most of us are feeding into that because you're going to get the most clicks from it. You know, you put a crazy wild title of something about views or contracts, or people are going to click on it immediately. You know, it's like a thing that people claim they hate, but they love it at the same time. You know, the media doesn't have to post the viewership. They don't have to post the purses of these fights. We don't have to know that information. You know, you don't have to tell us about the negotiations. I like when a fight just every once in a while, a fight is randomly announced that we weren't expecting to get, you know. Most of the time, if you notice, most of the times when we hear 2 fighters are in negotiation or in talks, and there's some sort of report of that, like Manny Pacquiao and Ryan Garcia just months ago, most of those fights are not real, but they'll report it. And I'm talking about the major, credible boxing websites will put this out there. You know why? Because they will get clicks, and then people like on YouTube will eat it up. They'll make a 10 to 20 videos on it, and then the fight won't even happen. How many videos were done on fights that didn't occur this year by people? But it's all about views. It's all about views, especially when it comes to money. People make money on this thing. It's no secret. People make money here. So let's keep making the content. So the people that complain, the boxing fans, the hardcore fans that claim they hate this, they actually, it's beneficial towards them in some way because of the subscribers and stuff. When you talk real boxing, or you talk like I do breakdowns every once in a while of two fighters that are really not that known here in America, I won't get a lot of views, but there are certain fans that want to hear it. There are certain, like yesterday, the what fight? Josh Warrington fight. In America, I'm not going to get a lot of views here, or period. I'm not going to get a lot of views. I think the British channels or the UK channels will probably get more views and stuff, but I'm going to still cover it because people want to see it. People that really genuinely love the sport, they want to hear what I have to say on it. There are other channels that won't ever cover a fight like that, or will never break down a fight or any of that. They will just talk about the politics because people want to click on it and listen to it. They care more about that than the actual fight. They don't do any research. They just want to hear it from somebody else, whatever version or whatever way they present it. And they're okay with that, and I think that's part of the problem. And, you got to blame the fans. Some fans, like Biker, want to hear or want to see the fights. They want to hear about the fights. They don't want to hear about the contracts, yada, yada, yada. But most people want to hear about the politics. That's the unfortunate truth about it all.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is another, and this is my last thing I'm going to say because I need to go off. But, and this is something that I feel the UFC does a bit better because it's like, okay, there's a bit talk, there's some promotion, there's a bit of drama, whatever, etc. Oh, these guys, they pushed each other, whatever. Conor McGregor threw a chair. But, at the end of the day, it's like all building up to very frequent fights. And overall, I just feel like the pace that the UFC does that type of stuff is way better. And even I would say more effective because, like, if someone says something in boxing, you can almost discard it. Whereas, if someone does a little bit of trash talk in the UFC, you'll be like, oh, okay. Because, a fight could be very possible. You're not going to have 3 years of negotiation.
Mm-hmm. No, good point.
Or 8 years if you're looking at Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. Probably longer.
Yeah.
But all right, I need to go.
Khan and Kell Brook.
Well,
a lot of these fighters should have fought multiple times. Like Oscar De La Hoya and Trinidad, they should have had multiple fights, but they fought
absolutely,
one.
Absolutely, especially with the outcome of that fight. Absolutely,
but that should have been a 3-fight trilogy.
Yeah, man. I mean, and they were still so young at that time, They were still really, really young at that time. They could have definitely, and the controversy behind it, because Oscar was boxing extremely well, and then he took way too many rounds off. That should have definitely, and the money was there. The hype was there for that fight. Should have actually been an immediate rematch, but it is what it is. They should have at least fought within, even if it wasn't at welterweight, at 154 or even at 160, wherever, You're absolutely right.
Like even when fighters were fighting hundreds of fights, like they would fight multiple times, and maybe one would be for a title.
Mm-hmm.
They would have where people would fight like 3 times before fighting for a title against each other.
Mm-hmm.
They would just fight. The reasons why, like they had to and all, like some of them, like a lot of them needed the money, but it still happened.
Right.
You guys have the money now, so it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And as a fan of fighting, that's just not something I'm into.
Absolutely. What's up, Bruce Goes?
BoxingWave, how you doing, brother? Red Glove, Xavier, how you guys doing, man?
Good, good. Everything is great, man.
I'm hearing you guys talking about boxing over here, man. I love it. I love to jump in a boxing conversation. You put out the welcome mat, bro. I figure I'd jump in and chop it up with you a little bit, man.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. What's up? What's on your mind, man? We're talking about, we mixing it up. We were, it was the videos about Joshua and Usyk, but we're talking about boxing, the politics, and the fans, and we just had someone who just joined us that was a new boxing fan, and he's just trying to get into the sport and getting into fighters, and we're talking about a lot here. We're mixing it up.
I hear you, my brother, and man, it's a tough time to break into the sport today, bro. Man, it really is to see the mess that you're jumping into, man. I was listening to trying to get a unified, trying to get an undisputed, how hard it is today with all the cross promotions, and you got 4 different billionaire promoters you're trying to deal with, man. I'm going back to a simple time that everybody must remember, man. That was when Mike Tyson broke in and Don King wanted to unify the heavyweight championship, and you had guys like you had Bone Crusher Smith, you had Tony Tucker, you had Trevor Berbick. I mean, these are all heavyweight champions. And Mike Tyson he fought every one of them. They unified the title, and that was within maybe a year and a half, 2 years. Can you believe that happening today with the way belts are and the way promotions are, bro? It's like, that's why I'm so spoiled. I was fed a diet of filet mignon, and they're throwing bologna sandwiches at me today.
And I think part of the problem is, I think they saw the buildup of Floyd and Pacquiao, which, obviously they made a lot of money, but I think everybody's trying to have that same blueprint, and they're forgetting about everything that Floyd and Pacquiao had to do to get to that point. They were already older in their careers at that point. That 5 years that it took to finally make that fight work. These guys are trying to follow that blueprint, and they're like in their 20s. Like they haven't accomplished anything, and I think that's part of the problem. The Tyson route and what he did, the part of the reason why he became who he was is because of the way the amount of time that he was able to do it, and his age. No one's seen anything like that before, but he went straight at the top. He went straight to the top. He went straight at the best fighters at that time. That's what he did. And fighters don't want to do it anymore. And even if their original goal is to do that, as soon as they win like one title now, it's like they start playing it super safe,
Well, you know what I see, bro? I see so many different promoters out there, and so many promotional companies, and individual managers. I mean, it's a sharks. It's a mess out there. You're swimming with so many sharks. Back in the day, it was pretty much set in stone. If you had a path to follow, you had a promoter to follow, and I got to give UFC a pat on the back, because what Dana White says, that's the ultimate. That's going to happen. He'll say, you guys are going to fight here for how much money? But, there's so much haggling today. Nobody can come to a conclusion. And when we think they're so close, we think the contracts are almost signed. Bango, they're having a Twitter war, and it's just insane today, the way things are going. And we're hearing every shot of the gun, every time the gun gets loaded, every time it gets cleaned. It's almost like too much information. I just want to hear the fight signed, the date that it's going to be at. But it's like it's too much. It's so much drama going on in the background now. BoxingWave, you follow what I'm saying, man?
Absolutely, 100% agree with you.
Good stuff, Bruce Goes. My bad, I meant to say what up to you, but I was in the middle of eating and I was trying to unmute myself. But yeah, good stuff, Bruce Goes. I agree.
Nothing but mad love and respect for you, Red Glove.
Yeah, I was saying, like, in regards to like this Porter and Crawford fight, I said, I don't care if you guys look, I got a backyard. All right. All I ask is that you televise, make it viewable for people on the internet, on TV or whatever. I don't care as long as the fight happens and we can see it.
For sure. I mean, how long has this fight been argued, going back and forth? And now it even seems like the Sean Porter and Bud Crawford fight. It's almost in the same hemisphere. You know, I mean, the big thing is the purse bid now. It's nuts the way boxing is, bro.
And this ain't even the one that we were clamoring for. The reason why we're clamoring for this is because it gets Bud's foot in the door with these PBC guys. You know, I think that's the main intrigue of this fight, is if he could beat Porter, and just the fact if he could make the fight, he'll finally have his foot in the door with them guys. Because really, let's keep it honest, aside from detached retinas and flipping Ferraris, we know what the real fight we all really wanted to see.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. And that fight has to be made. That's going to be a black eye in boxing if that fight doesn't eventually be made, because it's coming to a point where it's becoming less and less talked about. It's almost becoming an afterthought. Well, maybe it's going to happen at 154. You know, God damn it. That's the welterweight fight to be made. If boxing doesn't smarten up and make that fight, man, that's like letting Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard walk away from each other. You know,
sadly, it'll be once. It's never going to happen twice, regardless of how the outcome is.
Bro, I don't care if it happens a million times. I want to see it happen once. That's all we need to see. Then let nature take its course. If a rematch is to be made, you know, I'm not going to get in the way of it. I don't think anybody is if the money's out there.
There's just looking at history, and you brought up a great point. Imagine if Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard and Duran, and what if these guys never fought each other? Just imagine that. Just remove that from boxing history for a second.
We don't even have to imagine. It's happening before our very eyes right now.
That's exactly what's happening, you know. And
Spence versus Thurman, remember that one?
Look, they had yeah, that never happened. Yeah, they had the four kings at that point. Right now, we got they're
calling the lightweights. They're calling the lightweights four kings already.
Dude, and the lightweight division was bubbling over not more than 6 months ago. We were begging for any of these guys to fight each other, but no. You know, Tank had to go up to junior welterweight, and Ryan had problems. I mean, it's a mess. Are these guys boxers, or are they prima donnas staging a freaking play out there for us?
The four divas. That's kind of what it is now.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think with the Sean Porter thing, it's not the fight I want to see. I'm good with the fight, but it's just more about Bud getting a foot in the door with the PBC fighters to me, and it's still I still don't feel like it's gonna happen. And the way this sport has been going, I've been right. I didn't think Fury and Joshua was gonna happen. I didn't think that it was gonna happen. But as a fan, regardless, and that's one thing with me, I'm not basing it off on one loss. Like the gentleman that was here earlier that was, ranting and raving, he kept saying, like, look at Pulev, he got knocked out by Joshua. Well, because he lost to Joshua, we're just gonna make it seem like he's trash. Just because Povetkin lost to Joshua, he's trash too. That's not the way it should work. Like most of these fighters, all of these, even historically, all of these guys lost to someone at one point. Just about almost all of them. That doesn't make them any less great. How many times did Pacquiao lose? He got knocked out by Marquez. I thought he was that was in 10 years ago. I thought Pacquiao was done then.
Have any of you guys actually seen his first loss? Have you seen Pacquiao's first loss before?
I've gone back in YouTube and watched it. Pacquiao wasn't even that good back then.
He just had raw talent, like speed, but it's like.
Hey, let me tell you something I remember happening, and I said, man, this should never happen. It was when Donald Curry and Marlon Starling were both coming up as welterweights. One was USBA title, one was NABF title, and those titles meant a lot. They were like a guaranteed world title shot back then.
Right. Back then,
dude, yet they match them with each other. They're both undefeated. It's only in about like their 14th, 15th fight or so, and I'm saying, man, they're putting two freaking brand new Cadillacs in there. Why are they doing this? And this is the day of Sugar Ray Leonard too. There's a lot of welterweights out there, bro. Anyway, make a long story short, Starling lost a fight in a great fight, but that L didn't affect him. He went on to win 2 titles. Curry went on to win multi-titles. The L meant nothing. It was a great fight, man. It drew the attention. Everybody knew who Donald Curry was.
The only fight they had.
Was. No, exactly. They fought again, maybe even 3 times. I'm not even sure.
I think they fought twice, but I'm not sure.
All right, but bro, my point is, why avoid this fight? The L does not do a freaking thing to your record. The L makes you shine if it's a great L. So it absolutely hurt neither one of these fighters. And looking back in hindsight, why don't they do it again with fighters? They're afraid to get an L, bro. That L is not going to tarnish your image. That's a badge of courage. If you do, it all depends on how you earn it.
Yeah, the key word you said was good L. Good L. Like Joshua losing to Ruiz was a good L. That was a good loss. And, I mean, we can name plenty of examples. Fighters got much better after losses. Many fighters got so much better after. Bernard Hopkins lost his first fight. Bernard Hopkins lost his first fight.
Good.
Battling Siki in the 20s, he lost his first 2 fights, drew his next 2.
My buddy Xavier over there. I'm surprised you not mentioned Henry Armstrong. I think he got knocked out in his first fight.
Yeah, he got knocked out, won 1, and then lost 3 or 2.
Hi, bro, man. And that's a fucking face on Mount Rushmore.
And he went on a 26-fight winning streak in the span of 1 year. And one of those fights was on his birthday.
Yeah, but like Bruce was saying earlier, and it's been said many times, it's too many hands in a cookie jar. Like, it's too many people that want to make money, and it's too many people involved today. It's way too many people, so they're gonna make it. Everybody's gonna make it work. It's not the fighters. The fighters are like in a list of importance here. It feels like the fighters are like number 4 when it comes to everybody else. So I think that's part of the problem right there. It's just too many people involved with these fights getting made. Back then, even the people that weren't fighting wanted to make the best fights, because they wanted to make their fighters stars by proving that they were the best. So even the promoters were better at that time, but today it's just weird, man. It's just too many networks and too many. You got all these streaming services and all these promoters, managers, yada yada. Guys like Leonard Ellaby to come out and say Josh Taylor, the undisputed fighter at 140, hasn't done anything. He doesn't fill enough seats at these arenas. The manager, this is what he's saying, and this is why we can't get a Tank fight.
No, boxing as we once know it is gone. I mean, we're talking about, Jake Paul headlining a boxing card, with 3 professional fights, this would never even conceivable back in the old day. But yeah, look at the undercard that he had. He brought these fighters out. He gave him money. He made a great night of it. Whether he fought or not in the card. But that's boxing has become the sideshow because of that. Now we're looking forward to the James Toney exhibition coming up, man. We're looking forward to Evander Holyfield fighting some MMA fighters. It's crazy, but that's if they have to do that to get some decent boxers on the undercard, to keep our sport alive. Hey man, I'm not gonna object to that, because I'm gonna watch all the fights regardless. I don't care who's fighting. I love boxing, in its purest form. But sometimes we have to get around these sideshows to watch prime boxing. And man, I wish it didn't come to that. But Jake Paul, he didn't come to boxing. Boxing reached out to him because it was in such a slump. And all these other promoters and different organizations, they can see how unregulated the sport we are. That's a shot to make money. We can get in there. All we need is an arena with a ring in it, and we can bring a couple of YouTubers banging heads with each other. They get 1 million followers. We're the sport's in the mud right now, man. But I think these guys can actually bring it up there if we can get more introduced, like Daniel Dubois on the undercard and Amanda Serrano, and whoever else was on there. That's what I'm looking to see. And if that's the only way they can present it, man. In these murky waters, the way boxing is today, that's what we're going to have to accept. We're going to have to, we're going to have to look through the forest to see the trees.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an old saying, the love of money is the root of all evil, and we see that being put to play
Oh, they're
in the sport
milking it,
every day, huh? Oh yeah, they are. They're definitely milking it. But that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get going. But Boxing Wave, been watching you for a long time. Good stuff. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming by, man. Take care. Bruce, by the way, how do you see this Joshua Usyk fight going?
You know, I'm not really all that impressed with Usyk. I know he's got a great career as a cruiserweight, but as a heavyweight, you know, he's had 2 fights and he wasn't that impressive. And you know what? Everybody said, well, a great cruiserweight. Yeah, but see, remember when Evander Holyfield became a heavyweight? Dude, he fought a guy. I think it was Seamus McDonough. You know, that's about as tough as anybody that Usyk's fighting now. But then he fought Pinklon Thomas, Alex Stewart. Dude, he was fighting everybody before he got to fight James Buster Douglas, and everybody, and he sharpened his skills. Different kind of heavyweights. We knew what he was about. With Usyk, I don't know, man. I just, you know, I hate to predict fights, but I don't give him the edge in a fight with Joshua. Joshua's to me a proven commodity at heavyweight, and Usyk, I just haven't seen him. I haven't seen him do much in the heavyweight division personally.
You think he gets knocked out?
Bro, like I said, I'm not a predictor. You're going to put a gun to my head. I don't think he's going to go the distance with Joshua. And I guess it's either a stoppage or a knockout, a TKO or a KO.
Got you. Okay. That's fair. I mean, it's not much to really look forward to. I mean, you have the Canelo Plant fight, and I think a lot of the hype into that. I mean, outside of it being undisputed, because Plant really didn't, you know, not to just hate on Plant. I know people are going to say that, but I mean, he really didn't prove anything. I've said before, Canelo's fought at least a dozen people that's on the level of that are better than the level of the best fighter that Plant has fought, you know. So even though Plant does look good, you know, he can box pretty well. I think all the hype is all of the tweeting, you know, that's the back and forth, you know, and the negotiations. I think all the hype behind this fight, outside of it being undisputed, I don't think people even care that it's undisputed. I think it's the fact that, they had some issues with negotiations, and that's what everyone's been talking about, you know. And now everything that happened with Oscar Valdez, I think that brought more into it, because Plant went to Twitter and went public and basically called all of these guys out on his camp about, you know, possibly being dirty, you know. And I think that's where the hype of this fight is right now. You know, people forgot that this is an undisputed fight. They don't even care anymore, you know.
Oh man, the last few days, all it's been on the internet is drug cheating, steroids, who's cheating, who's not cheating. Eddie Reynoso's camp is full of cheaters on PEDs. Victor Conti's the biggest voice with snacking boxing. All his fighters are on the juice. I mean, I don't even know where to turn to. And you know, dude, you know I'm no spring chicken, and you know I made my living in the physical industry, physical industry. I was a personal trainer and nutritional advisor, so I go back to the gyms in the '90s, and I saw all them cats on juice, you know, way back in the day. And you know, it hasn't changed much today. These people follow these gurus. They don't have any education, and you know they're dealing with these fucking anabolic steroids that can fuck up your endocrine. I mean, you know, your body's flooded with testosterone artificially. It's not producing estrogen. You stop taking it, you don't know what's happening. You're suddenly gaining a pair of breasts. I mean, it's really a dangerous thing, and it seems like all these boxers are messing around with it today, but they're magnetized to these so-called gurus who are going to tell them how to do these cycles. They're not going to get caught. They're not going to have any side effects. It's a scary thing. And it's filthifying a sport that couldn't get any more filthy, man. It really hurts me, and they're giving Valdez a pass for this, man. That's ridiculous. You know,
let me ask you guys a question. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go right ahead, bro.
No, yeah. Let me ask you guys a question. What do you guys feel about the fans that just want PEDs to be legal and just say, you know what, let them all juice, no more testing, just let people do what they want to do? How do you guys feel about it?
It's a dangerous enough sport without PEDs. You know, you add 15 pounds of muscle to somebody, those fists are going to be freaking cinder blocks, and the brain's not going to get any stronger. The head's not going to be able to take any more of a concussive blow. No, you can't. You put them all on steroids. You might as well put football helmets on them and make it a different sport. You get the drugs out of the sport. Don't get them into the sport, because you get them into the sport, you're getting me out of the sport.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, just letting everybody do whatever, it's only gonna put a worse black eye on the sport.
Shit, man, they look like cartoon bodybuilders in the ring together.
They already kind of do, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened to Jeanette Cepeda, this past week and her passing. I mean, people died from the sport. I think, was it not last year, but a year before? I think there was like 4 or 5 fighters that died in the ring in just that one year. A couple years ago, a couple years back.
I mean, the most deaths in boxing was, I think, 1951.
And how many was that then?
I mean, it's been going since Jack Dempsey. They were accusing Jack Dempsey of loading his hand. How do you think Iron Mike Tyson got the name Iron Mike? That was from Jack Dempsey's fucking plaster of Paris filled right hand. They were calling him Big Mike and Bad Mike. He watched Jack Dempsey with that fucking right hand bang. He was Iron Mike, and that's been going on forever in boxing, and it's a sin, man. It's everybody's looking for an advantage, and you're talking about 2 fists can kill somebody. Never mind if you load those fists up with plaster of Paris, or you take the padding out of the gloves, or you put whatever they're talking about putting in these gloves. Boxing has to come clean. All this stuff is just stinking it up, and it seems like it's all happening within the last few years, heavy duty. And man, I can't get crude enough about it, and I'm probably the most laid back guy you're going to see on the internet. Not too much riles me, bro, but what's going on in boxing today, the cheating, the drug use, all these fucking scandals, man. I need to take a few hits off my Toka too to calm myself down after talking like this, bro.
Yeah, in 1953, 22 fighters died.
God damn, that's a lot.
Oh, damn. I mean, shit.
Damn, that's a lot.
And that was well before steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of that has to do with padding in gloves and cheating in gloves and incompetent referees.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing, we could start going back and forth naming boxers who were killed in the ring.
I mean, there were approximately over 500.
It's a tough sport, man. You're not nobody's gonna walk away unscathed, man. This is boxing, but we don't have to make it any more dangerous than it is now.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I would never say that. I can't stand when people just go out there and say that. Let it all freak, let it just go. Do what you want to do. I mean. It's already dangerous. We already had
finish fights. Round only ends if someone's knocked down.
Say that again. Repeat that.
If we're going to just allow steroids, we might as well bring back the idea of a fight to the finish, where you just fight. The round goes on until someone's knocked down. That's when it ends.
Or quits or something. Just like no rounds. Just let it go. Just keep
infinite
going.
Number of rounds. It only ends if someone gets knocked down or they quit.
Might as well have battle royales too. What the hell, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, Uranium asks a question. In your opinion, is Usyk the smartest fighter technically and IQ wise that Josh has ever fought? If weight was taken out of the argument. Well, I started out this video saying that I wouldn't be sure if Joshua would beat Usyk if Usyk was, or if Joshua was a cruiserweight. A cruiserweight. Like if Joshua was at during these World Boxing Super Series tournaments, if Joshua was equal size to Usyk and a Breidis, I'm not too sure if he beats them if this is all equal size. I mean, that's not the case here, but Usyk is the one that's coming up, so he's the one that's at a disadvantage here, and this is why I'm leaning towards Joshua. But if we're just talking about just straight skill, I would give Usyk the edge over Joshua.
Hey, BoxingWave, I have to jump off, bro. I appreciate you having on me. Xavier, always a pleasure talking to you, brother. In the chat. Peace out, everybody, man.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's I think Usyk is definitely the most skilled that he's fought.
Mm-hmm.
Right behind Klitschko, just like pure skill wise with the feints and everything. Like Klitschko was extremely skilled. Like he was a great
Mhm.
fighter, and
Yeah.
he'll go down in a greater position than he is now. He'll get more respect as time goes on. But I mean, you also have to take into account the 2 years off, what that takes out of a fighter with just
Right.
lack of activity. So
Right.
no matter how skilled you can be, you can one punch can still put you out. That's the great thing about this fight. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm just not. I kind of wish it would be a boxer versus puncher because Joshua was talking like he's going to box, which is going to make the fight interesting still. But kind of wish he would go in for just trying to punch him out, just for that classic matchup.
Yeah, you know what? I would actually respect. I think if Joshua was to go in there and put the pressure on Usyk instead of, focus on long term and endurance, like
But
he
it always
did.
has to be in your mind when you're a fighter. Like going the distance should be in your mind to prepare for that. But like you're saying,
yeah, you don't want to like. I personally, what I wish? I personally wish if AJ was to go in there with pressure, but in a sense where he can still like be mindful, like don't completely punch yourself out. Make the punches count, but be the bigger guy to come forward. You're fighting a smaller guy. It'll be more impressive if he were to take the chance to try to knock him out, and he could still do that by boxing. He might be able to counter and set Usyk coming in, but we're all expecting that. But I think AJ is taking the approach. Like I think if he wanted to stop Ruiz and really hurt him bad in that rematch, that was the night to do it. But he fought so cautiously because of what happened. I think it was very, very. I think it was all mental. I think he was a much better fighter than he was against Ruiz in a rematch, and he could have really probably done a lot more damage, if not stop him, at least hurt him more than once. But the first fight, he was reckless. You drop Ruiz the first time, and then you go into you try to trade with the guy that's shorter, that's the quicker hands, the better hooker, and you paid for it, and I think that makes you, a little bit unsure of how to, what approach to take.
Yeah.
Like that you need to win. He fought I can't make any mistakes here.
Yeah, I just hope that as he goes on, he'll learn to mesh his styles, like the pre-knockout and the after the knockout, like just being more of a boxer puncher, but still like always having that, just being smart, whereas like you're not being completely reckless, but also knowing when you can go in for it, like picking the right moments to punch more rather than strictly boxing or strictly punching, like going for it. I think that with time, if he keeps fighting, I think he'll definitely figure it out more so if somebody doesn't knock him off. And if he does lose this fight, he'll get the rematch. So if somebody like beats him twice, even then, I think that would do good for him if he does lose.
I think the loss was enough. Like I think the loss was to Ruiz is exactly what he needed, and if he loses again, I think it's just based on him losing, like, listen, this is who he is, but that loss to Ruiz, it was so much going into that fight, his first US fight, the rumors of him getting knocked out, being in the concussion and all that before this fight. I don't know what's all true, but it was so much going on in that fight, and a lot of people believe that he wasn't himself that night. He lost, and he fixed what needed to be fixed. That's a fight that I was there that night, and I feel after watching it several times, he wanted to get Ruiz out of there. Wilder had just knocked out Brazil. That knockout became a whole meme on social media, and I think this guy Anthony Joshua wanted to go in there and impress the Americans, and he overdid it. Like, no, you got to come in with a strategy here. I know this guy's your replacement opponent, but you got to come in here with a game plan. And if you're going to go for the knockout, be smart about it. You know, Andy Ruiz got dropped, but he wasn't hurt. You could tell when he got up, he was okay. And Joshua just started swinging, and he got clipped. You know, he was being reckless, and he paid for it. And, you know, if he is to lose from here on, whether it's against Usyk, whether it's against Fury or Wilder, I mean, you know, I think that's all it is a loss. You know, I think he's already solidified himself. Yes, there's more work to be done because you want undisputed, but he's one of for this generation, he's already secured his position as being one of the greatest heavyweights in this generation.
Like the last 20 years since Lennox.
Yeah. Yes, he's already secured that spot to me.
But do you think that he should fight in America again before he retires?
I think so. I do think so. But if he wasn't going to, it's not the biggest thing to me. I don't know what fight that would be. He's gonna fight Usyk out there. I don't know how the winner of Wilder and Fury is gonna work out. You know, but I know Wilder is probably gonna want to fight here in America if he was to win. I think the Fury fight would probably be more likely to be out there, or at least it'll be easier to work out, you know, and negotiate. You know,
I really feel like that Fury fight, if it is done for undisputed with Joshua, it should happen in America. I just want to see him go through that kind of pressure again and see him come out on top or not. Because he just seemed like he let the mental aspect of the sport get to him.
Yeah.
And since then he's just kind of stayed away from America. Like if he never fights here again, it's like I'm not going to hold it against him. I just personally want to see him try to test himself mentally with that. With that.
He needs to redeem himself. And to be honest, if it was up to me, I would want him to fight multiple times out here. You know, more than, you know, I mean, do what you got to do. I mean, I think the Fury fight is 50-50. Excuse me. I could see it happening out in the UK, you know, Wembley or wherever they decide to have it. I could see it happening there, but I could see it happening in America because Fury has made his mark here, you know, and as far as people that's willing to travel, the UK fans, the British fans especially, they're more willing to fly out. You know, I saw them fly out here to watch Joshua and other fights, other British fighters that's fought here in America that they love. They will come and support their fighters. That's what they do. They will fly out. As far as Americans flying out for that fight, I don't think there would be many Americans. I mean, I might do it, but I don't know how many other guys that's willing to do it. You know, I've flown out there for a fight before. It didn't happen, but yeah, I think regardless, you know, the outcome of all of these, you know, the next couple of fights, if we get undisputed, regardless, I think AJ should have at least a couple of fights because even if he wins in his first fight back to America, I think you want to get another good win in, you know, just because you want people here to love you too, you know, and he came, didn't look good, and that was that, you know, and maybe he just probably feels funny about flying out here and fighting here, you know, come here, spend time here. Don't just prepare and
pull Lennox Lewis with Africa.
Yeah, like spend your time here, like spend months here, you know, and prepare for a fight and just get used to it, you know, and maybe I think things will be a lot better. You know, I know he spent some time in Miami and, you know, flying back and forth, but nah, I think he needs to spend some time here. And even if he loses, you know, if he loses and continues to fight, he should have some more fights here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly. And like the thing is, like he went to the what is known historically as the Mecca of boxing, and he lost. It's like if he doesn't want to come back, it is what it is. But I don't know. It's like historically, people have had to fight in America to really get respect. But I mean, it is what it is. Fighting the fighters is the most important thing. The location is not.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I was reading a comment by Bruce in the comments, and He's saying if Americans are not required to fight outside America, then no one needs to go to America. And my response to that is, well, the opportunity was here for a lot of fighters that are not from America. The opportunity, the guys like the Kovalevs of the world who came out here and went to Canada and fought some of the best. Sometimes it's not going to be the same. Look at Triple G, you know. He wasn't having fights in Kazakhstan. He was coming out here to fight. And that's what made him the star he is today. And many other fighters.
Klitschko came out to America and won.
Who?
Even Klitschko won in America.
Yeah. I mean, listen. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Bruce. But at the same time, this has always been a thing because this is where this is where it all began, you know, at the end, as far as the super fights, the big fights, they were all here, you know, a lot of them were here, you know, and even as big as the British fighters are, and they're able to sell and make a lot of money out there, you know, even just looking at last night's fight that fell apart, these fighters still travel to America and fight here, you know, they still do it. You know, I think more Americans should. And in certain scenarios, yeah, I think certain fighters from America should fly out there, especially when we don't have, you know, there's no arena and they're not able to sell the tickets here. Some of these fights that happen here, they're not able to sell here. They would sell out there, but they still have them here. And I think in certain scenarios like that, maybe, you know, or the championship is from out there. Yeah, maybe American boxers should fly out. All right. But you know, there's a lot of situations where it would be beneficial if the fighter from wherever they are, wherever part of the world they are, come to America, you know, and this is how they created their fame here, right here. They were already famous out there. They wanted to come here. They chose to come here because they wanted to make a name for themselves. And that's just the way it works, man. You know,
like Madison Square Garden isn't known for what it like is the mecca of boxing for no reason. Honestly, like there have been so many great fights out there from like all over the world. Like for since the 20s, since boxing was legalized in New York, there have just been hundreds of fights out there. And Bo Jack, I think he fought like over 20 fights in Madison Square Garden, more than any other fighter.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a history to the sport that is ingrained in America, even though the sport didn't originate from America. That's where like when it really started catapulting like above all the other sports, it was in America.
Yeah, I think historically that's the reason why fighters come here. But I you know, the climate does change. And, you know, I think in certain situations where fights are offered, you know, outside, like, you know, I remember Wilder was going to go fight Povetkin in Russia. You know, that fight didn't happen. But at that time, Wilder wasn't nowhere near as known as what he is today. You know, whereas Povetkin, he's huge over there. You know, he's big time over there. You know, those are scenarios where I can say like, you know, people like from here, like Teofimo Lopez was just recently saying like a lot of the Australian fighters, they sell, man. They're big out there. You know, Teofimo Lopez is like, I'm not going to go out there and fight them so I can get robbed on the cards. I'm like, well, what about the guys that get robbed here? People get robbed everywhere. You know, you got to show up.
Yeah, like Jack Johnson won the title in Australia against a non-Australian.
Yeah. But then again, and you know what? Historically, like as far as history is concerned, that's great. That is great. But, you know, the sport does evolve.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there are certain scenarios where why wouldn't you take this fight? You're going to get paid so much more by fighting this guy in their country. Why wouldn't you go?
Kind of like Charlo Tim Tszyu. Like that should be not. I don't feel like that's the kind of fight that should be happening in America.
I would jump on it. I agree with you. I actually was thinking about that. If I was Charlo, you know, if he is gonna fight him, I mean, at some point, you know, I would jump on the opportunity, because people will pay to watch you fight more than what they would pay to watch you fight at home. You know, that's the reality of it all. You know, so if there is, you know, if you're gonna get paid much more to fight some other place, you know, a lot of people are going to the Saudis now, you know, and going out there and fighting, taking fights there because they're getting a lot of money. What's stopping you to go into other countries and doing it as well if they're willing to pay you more than what you're going to make here in America?
More eyes too, because Americans don't watch boxing like that.
They really don't. They don't. You know, you'll be surprised how many fighters that we think are famous or cash cow, we call them cash cows. There's still people that don't know who they are in comparison to other sports,
or even this sport 20 years ago.
Yeah, there's levels when we talk fame. There's levels of it, you know, when it comes to athletes.
Like, none of these fighters can go on any of these talk shows like they used to. Like, they're not going to be going on big talk shows. Like, like Jay Leno and they're not having to explain themselves. Like, if they end up on those kind of talk shows, they have to explain themselves. Like, why are you here? Like, who are you? You're a boxer, but okay, what about it? Like, they're gonna have to show highlights, show the record. But like Sugar Ray Leonard, all they had to say was his name.
Exactly. There's levels. There's levels, and this whole cash cow is crazy. Listening to fighters talk about, again, their Instagram followers. Like, which can be purchased, by the way, you know.
Yeah,
you can just purchase followers. People do it on YouTube as well. Clearly, there's channels that's purchase followers. You know, I mean, you can do it. It's that easy. And like you said, Sugar Ray Leonard, you used to be able to say his name. He's one of those guys that, you know, in the docs that I've seen with him, this guy was super famous, man. He was super loved. You could go anywhere, any event, stop the show. Like, you don't get that from fighters today. You don't get it from even Floyd and Manny don't get that kind of love in America. They didn't get that like that here, not here. You know, and these have been the two, you know, as far as pay-per-views and money, they've been the biggest here for a while now. But when you say Mike Tyson, or when you say Sugar Ray Leonard, or you say Muhammad Ali, or it's different levels.
And they all fought outside of America too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Muhammad Ali fought in Africa. He fought in every continent except for South America, and
he fought in Asia. Yep.
No, he did fight in Asia. Yeah, he fought in every continent besides South America.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. What's good, young Hollywood? But I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up, man. It's been you know, first I want to thank you, Xavier, for joining us. Thanks everyone that joined us today, that was able to join the panel today. Anybody that donated today, all the new subscribers, definitely hit that subscribe button, smash that like button if you haven't already. It was a good chat, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I'll be back soon. I just wanted to give an intro to this Usyk Joshua thing. Probably going to do the breakdown sometime this week. It should be out. I'm not going to wait till week of the fight. I'm going to do the breakdown early and get that out of the way, because there's not much boxing to really talk about, discuss. I won't be covering a fight this weekend live because I'm just all the drama surrounding the Oscar Valdez fight this weekend. I'm not going to be covering it live, man. I just can't really support it. You know, I mean, it's one thing to pop dirty and whatever, but it's another thing when you fail a drug test and they let the fight continue and they don't strip you of the belt. I just don't support that, man. So I won't be covering that fight live this weekend. All right. Don't expect a breakdown or anything. I'm just not going to support it altogether. I'm going to leave that alone. I've forgiven fighters, plenty of fighters that's pop dirty, but it's one thing to pop dirty, and you're just not going to receive any punishment for it. Charles Edward Cheese in the building, man. Thank you for the donation, man. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much, man. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it, man. I always tell you, I told you before, listen, please, send me, an email or hit me up on social media if you can. I would definitely like to, send you a gift, because you've been very generous, giving me donations to the channel, and been one of my biggest donators to the channel. And to everyone else that's donated to the channel over the last, couple years, since I started doing this, the videos live. But I won't be live this weekend, but I am going to do a breakdown for Joshua and Usyk. I feel like I'm ready. I'm more than prepared to do it, but I'm still going to do more videos talking about this fight. All right. But it was fun. I definitely want to do more videos like this. I like discussing boxing with you guys live, like on the fly like this. All right. But listen, I'm getting out of here. I'm gonna just relax for the rest of the day. I hope everyone is doing well from this storm. I had a long-term subscriber, William. He came on here. He said he lost everything from the storm. I hope everyone is doing well, their families as well. I hope all of you are healthy. And I'll get out of here. Maybe, you never know. I've been in the mood to drop a lot of content lately, and I've had more time, so maybe I will drop another video later on. All right. But if anything, make sure you again subscribe to the channel, smash that like button for me. Thank you for the donations again, and I'll see you guys on the next one.